like 23:30 p.m. Intense burning occurs, and it's not going as in the arms in particular, on the wrist, in the face, on the feet and the legs. Knife in his head, pervert, and this intense burn is also crushing the inside of my head, as well as sort of burning on the outside. Gun sound bullshit, Justin said. Nothing I can do about it, the creator's fucking corrupt. Bullshit, Justin said. Justin chasing Gracie. Being smashed out, life gone, Tron said. Tron users just said. Shot dead, just. Your dad's name's John said. My eyes flicker from something, like a cotton bud in one of the eyes. My dad is not John, my dad is Mike. Alex Lunnis wants you dead. That's the person that was living at my old place, not Burnham but Bridgewater, in the building there. But he knew me before that in North Perriton, but just mentioning the threat. Gunshot sound, supposed to be the face of a pizza, smash you in just, getting smashed in just, chasing Sally Addicut, said, when I'm not chasing Sally Addicut. Shot dead, Justin. You called Alex Lunnis a shopping trolley and told Presley to shoot him, said. Presley is basically fixed with some people in Willavington, going back to the mid-1990s, who broke into my dad's car and stole everything that he put in there. £1,000 worth of equipment back in that time period. Persistent gunshot blanks being fired, and the smell of gas, but not the smell of illegal gunshot sulphur smell like there was the other night. It's just blanks being fired at the moment. I can't remember the year, I think it's 1995 or 1996. What happened was Presley Wright broke into my dad's car and stole £1,000 worth of equipment, taking the speakers and everything out of my dad's car back at that time. And back then things were expensive. And he's pretended to be friends since that time. No, I didn't know until later on that he was involved in all this, which was just before I moved to North Perriton the second time around, which was just after the year 2000. And then obviously, once I knew he did this, I sort of pretended to like him, but I didn't really like him at all. But because we're in the same environment and had to face each other on a regular basis, living in the same village, and then same when I moved to Bridgewater West Street, you had to, be sociable, but I don't actually like him, no. But there was a time when I was buying computer games from him as well, where he robbed me on that as well. That was before I really actually knew properly that he broke into my dad's car, going back at that time. Sick cunt life's gone breaking in, said Justin said. Gun sounds, lots of banging, and Alex Lunnis, Justin said. Right, gunshots at 1:11 a.m. Definitely rape Stephanie Jill, Justin said. Shit smells. Life's lost, said. Going back to this Alex Lunnis business, some of the threats that are being included in the latest things is making me wonder whether there's connections with this person. Because Alex Lunnis was living at North Perriton in 2001, 2, 3 area. He was getting off with Amy Weston, who's a sexual looking smooth skinned girl that looks like Gabby Borges, the American singer, in America, in Pennsylvania, Texas. But she had smoother skin and a more sexual looking face than Gabby Borges, when even at the age she is now, if you get what I'm saying. Anyway, he went with Shara Weston, who is like his heroine and all the rest of it. But when I moved to Bridgewater, he moved into the same area where I moved. When I moved to Burnham-on-Sea, his mate, Gareth, I think that's his name, Gareth, knew Gary Ford. Now, as far as Gary goes, I'm not going to say anything else on that specific issue because I have no problems with that person. So there's no need for me to say anything else there. Gareth, however, was a friend that knew Alex that visited that building where I used to live at Burnham-on-Sea. And then obviously after that I moved to Yeovil, and now this person's name's reoccurring again. Or I wouldn't say it's reoccurring, it's been said, but the information content of what's coming out in threats like this allegation stuff of this Stephanie threat that we had from years ago is reoccurring, and it seems to be making a suggestion of this specific person. There's a possible connection with the threats that are occurring tonight, so just mentioning it. Incidentally, when Alex would have been with Amy Weston or whatever, she would have been in her teens still, and Shara would have been in the earliest part of the 20s. Yet, I was only 22 going back in the 2003 area when all this was occurring. Yet I'm told I'm a sick bastard if I don't go with anyone to lose virginity over, basically 20 years on top of that. So it's worth mentioning on this recording. And this Amy, incidentally, as far as men were concerned, is probably the sexiest type person of an old age back at that time that men could fancy because of the type of person she looked like. That wouldn't be possible to find in this day and age. Everyone have a dry and sarcastic face, and for me, you'll be looking at someone at least 90 times more negative looking than Amy as a replacement for the, and if just supposing she was to be a lady in my life back at that time. I'm talking 90 times, and I'm not making that up. Just to remind you of the issue with Amy Weston and all the rest of it, she tried reporting me in 2015 for putting stuff on Facebook to the police, not reporting Facebook, reporting it to the police. She never reports Facebook, I can tell you that. No, she wanted to try and get me in trouble with the police because of stuff I mentioned. But what I mentioned was actually due to the actual pre-organised setups of problems walking about in the street at that time. And I near enough went in jail because of the things. But before that, I was being dug at sexuality, when on sexuality the only sex I've had in my life is being raped as a child. And then some people were digging at the Wayne business and whatever back at that time. There's stories to confirm or to explain the issue of that, which goes back to the 90s. Anyway, Amy Weston was one of those really sort of sexual sort of people. She was a blonde person, smooth skin, basically of the sexiest you can possibly get, if you get what I'm saying. You're not going to get anything more sexy than that. Literally, it's almost impossible, and in today's society people have a more dry and sarcastic face. You wouldn't get that. I'm not too bothered. I don't really like her, and not applicable, no need for it. But it annoys me that she's fucked all my enemies, and enemies that want to shoot me dead and knife me down or kill me or whatever else. That's what annoys me. And the fact that I'm known as a sick bastard if I go with someone 50 times more negative looking than what she was back then. So that's what annoys me. And this is why I put Jesus Christ in peril back in 2002 with a cheat called Deep Depression, putting God's creation against him and writing intelligent stuff because of the way I was being treated back at that time. But that's before my life got 20 times worse, and before I got mistaken as civilian, having anything from 40 to 200 threats per day almost every single day in 2022. Same for people photographing me, and same for people sneezing in my face in that specific year. 23 was a little bit calmer, but it's starting to escalate and get nasty again for 2024. So I won't go into a long debate about it because there's many videos I've done regarding this specific issue. But when it comes to me forgiving Christ, I think you can safely say God's cut his fucking throat with me. I mean, I still go to these places to socialise, to try and find a partner, because I've never had anyone in my whole life apart from being sexually abused. And obviously I mentioned, like in my last life, clairvoyance says that's all that I had in my last life as well. And then when Jesus rapes me as a child in my next life, I'm going to be burnt and played about with poker sticks in a fireplace. So, and if it's not that, I'll be dead by a cobra or a fucking deadly animal. So, that's the best it gets. There's this issue with Sally Ann Adicott that's been mentioned as well tonight. Basically, go to the link that I did, the previous link to this, or the previous couple of links to this. There's a 2-hour video I've done that mentions this specific issue in there, to cut a long story short. She's about 50 times more ugly than Amy Weston was, so, as it stands today. In actual fact, she looks like Lisa Pike today. Negative, very negative. So, worth mentioning. There's not actually anybody I know. God has cut his throat, and because he's sliced the wrist of just in time, there's no way I should be forgiving him when the revelation comes, and I'm holding everything against him. And if he ends up in the fire of hell, I don't give a fuck. I don't say I have a stone cold heart, but if you look at my life in depth and taking the past into account and the way I'm being treated and the past used against me with stuff that's not true, and the fact that 99.9% of all problems in my life is on sexuality, there's no way I can forgive Christ. I mean, I can pretend to go to church, or I can pretend to socialise and pretend I like Christ, but I've fallen, I've fucking turned against him. And it's fucking obvious with my Bible verses I've been making to try and get as much nasty information in the Bible to use against Christ that I'm going to leave behind when I'm dead. But take into account when I'm dead, because I posted all this information to governments across the world, including conspiracy theorists, there's information in there that says if I die before the Christ comes, Christ can disguise me as this and disguise me as that and rip me to pieces while the proper person of me is rotting in hell and stuff like that. So basically, in other words, to say that as soon as I'm dead, Christ has cut his wrists and cut my throat, and there's no evidence to confirm anything when the evidence is lost, meaning it's too late, meaning that the world's in jeopardy when I'm dead. So, if you've been treated like a piece of shit and been told you're a fucking weirdo when you haven't had sex all your life, apart from being raped as a child, and now at the age of 43 and whatever else, you can't forgive. It's as simple as that. Shot dead, you're a fucking weirdo, said. It's good that people call me a child rapist and a weirdo and whatever, but all these people have had sex with people under the age of 40, and possibly in their 20s or even teens, yet they got the nerve to fucking treat me as the sickest cunt living. And I've had nothing in my whole life. I'm being told I'm a sick cunt if I don't go with anyone the age of over 38. So why have they have sex under the age of 40? Maybe we want to fucking question that fucker. The information that the Deep Depression contained was stuff like why do underwater creatures shit and piss in the same water they eat and drink out of, and that Jesus can't return to Earth without killing insects, because coming in human form to return to Earth means stepping on insects, which is murder. And there was many different things like that I mentioned. This is in 2002, before my life got 50 times worse. Even back in 2003, people were questioning my life and how God has turned against me. But that's before my life got 50 times fucking worse. So it just says it all, doesn't it? And when I decided to chuck all my sheets, somewhere between 100 and 300, I can't remember how many sheets it was, before I went into digital format in 2005 when I moved to Bridgewater and West Street, I prayed to God for a short period of time. My life just fucking went fucking haywire. And obviously we had that issue with the 3 to 4 years where I started praying to God just before I moved from my old place to here. And then we have 2022 being the roughest, and that, well, not roughest, but nastiest threat year on record in my whole life, where there's at least 40 threats per day every single day of 2022, and up to 140, 200 on some days, as I just mentioned. People are claiming that I copy Scooter's music or Girls Aloud or the stuff that comes out in the charts, where in actual fact his music tracks have been twisted against me by the government or the elite to bump me off in a sick, twisted way, and to tell me to fuck people that raped me as a child as well, and to fuck up any possibilities of any past relationships or girlfriends that could have occurred, especially in 2003. You have the 12th of the 12th, 2012, and you have the 24th of the 12th, 2012. That's 12 days between the two. On the 12th of the 12th, 24, and the 24th of the 12th, 24, that's 12 years. So it adds up to the name of 12, which applies just in time. But people are fucking moaning about my post regarding the just in time issue, because I'm Justin, and it rhymes with just in time, basically. And I wanted to put those dates on there for a bit of a laugh. So, the other thing I mentioned was joking about saying behind the world's oldest clock, Salisbury Cathedral, because I've actually been there. Not for about a decade nearly, or around about that time, but I went with my brother many years ago, and it's a good place. But I did get threats. It must have been after that, because I had the severe threats. It might have been just after 2016. I can't remember, but I do recall that just being the very start of those threats. There's Bible verses in the Bible that go against time. Jesus is against time. Jesus is against just in time. The Bible is twisted. The Bible is fucked up. In the DRA Bible, in Revelation, it says that time would be no longer. And it does say in other verses in the King James and ordinary Bible versions that they have today that there'll be no more time at the end of time, and that Jesus is going to destroy time. And when you consider my name as the nickname Just in Time, and you consider that I've been nicknamed that quite a few times throughout my life, especially as a child and in the 2016 period, then it just says it all, doesn't it? Right, the purple cover tape for the Fallout tape wasn't actually a Mission Control mix. It was, I think it's Intelligence, I'm not sure. It seems to be cut into different stages, that specific mix. So it starts off with Pesce World of Music. It goes into Hitting the Roof track by Master Safe, but it was renamed Rolling the Punches later on when it got released commercially. And then Redneck Need You. On the Redneck Need You record, it says Respect to John Major, because obviously back in those days people didn't like the government when they were making underground music, and it wasn't tied like it is today. Or the underground scene wasn't, but the commercial scene probably was separate to that. After those 3 tracks, it ends. It goes into it ends after the Master Save actually, but it goes into Redneck Need You. It's split into 3 or 4 different events, mixes onto that Fallout tape. So you've got Intelligence, which is the last part, I think, which is 1993. Because I had an Intelligence mix, which starts off with DJ Ratty, Source of All Evil, Omni Trio Renegade Snares Foul Play remix, DJ Nut Nut and Pure Science The Rumble, Boom Shaka mix, Production House Recordings. No, actually it's the other way around. Omni Trio Renegade Snares Foul Play remix is after that. And then it's Hyper on Experience Disturbance Tango remix, Moving Shadow Records. That's just recently been released on Night Force. Hyper on Experience Lord of the No Lines. Bootleg Side A mix, but it's been reissued as Danny Breaks. Danny Styles remix part 2 from Night Force Recordings, and initially it was released on Moving Shadow. I think there's 500 copies that were issued, or something like that when it got issued, or 200 when it got initially recorded as a promo. DJ Ratty stepped back in time from the Taste of Things Come EP. DJ, what is it? There's Time Bomb, I can't remember who done it. I think it's DJ Ratty and Tango. It's a remix. And then the tape ends. There's a rapid ending on that tape. The last track on side A, or the last couple of tracks, includes Tango and Fallout the Violator, Volume 1, side A mix, and DJ Fallout Love Me from the Storm Warning EP, which has the Ripper on the flip side. Which is on Rough Tone Recordings. So that's another good track. I think the Ripper's on there as well, actually, on that Fallout tape. Just before the Love Me track. So worth mentioning that. Again, I don't know what mix it is because it's split into 4 different events on that mixtape. I know that one's Intelligence 1993, and that's the one where it has Hyperon Experience tracks near the end of the tape on side B. I've never had the blue cover tape cover or the purple tape cover Dance Trance of Future for the Groove Rider mix, but some say that the Mission Control mix is in that tape cover and others say it's another mix. I've never fully understood what side A is, but I do know what side B is on one of the Groove Rider Dance Trance tapes that was put in that tape cover, which is Dreamscape 8, New Year's Eve 1993, which was put on the B-side of a Dance Trance Groove Rider tape. Now that starts off with DJ Crystal Meditation, followed by, what's the other track? I think it's DJ Rap, Jeopardy, Desired State Remix, Suburban Bass Recordings. Incidentally, Meditation is DJ Recordings, or Lucky Spin. Then you have Nookie, T-Tree on Reinforced Records. Then you've got that Moody track, which is called The Alliance, First Impressions, Reinforced Records, that was initially released in 1993 on Legend Records as a 10-inch acetate press, before being released on Enforcer 6 on Reinforced Records in 1994. That's not a bad EP, because you've got the Simon Templar remix of Wax Doctor the Saint, which is also an excellent track on that EP. But anyway, after First Impressions on Dreamscape 8, you have the International Rude Boys featuring no, I'm not sure if it's featuring Matrix. It's called Paragon remix. Then I think, I can't remember if it's, I think it's Mad Dog's out, Underdog Recordings or something like that. Then you had Dark and Moody Volume 4, which is produced by DJSS on Formation Records. And it goes into The Undergraduates, Into the Future, Camden tunes. That's not sure if, no, I think it's the Massive mix or one of, I can't remember what mix it is. Then finally you have the Intensity Quickening, Rugged Vinyl Recordings, which is on the Rugged 7 EP. Most people prefer the track called Paradox, but all the tracks on that EP are good. And on the Rugged 9 of the Genesis project, which includes Time Space Continuum and The Dreamer, and what else? What was the other track? Time Space Continuum, The Dreamer, the remix of The Quickening, and the Genesis project. Right, I'm going to talk about the Alliance First Impressions, which I mentioned a couple of minutes ago. Initially it was released on Legend Records on an acetate. I'm not sure what's on the other side. I think it's Deep Concentration or New Creation on the actual initial 10-inch promo, which is what Groove Rider used to play at Dreamscape 8 New Year's Eve 1993. But the actual track got released on Reinforced Records when it was available to the public on a picture disc record called Enforcer 6, which came as a double album for Enforcer 6 and 7. Some of those Enforcers records were actually released on CD, but they were limited editions back in the time it was released. The first 2 minutes and 46 seconds of the Alliance First Impressions gives the sound of like bats flying around in a cellar, with a dark, creepy, moody, low tone, low down sound. After 2 minutes and 46 seconds through, there's a sample that's used in a track called Way Out West, The Gift, which was released in 1995 or 1996 area, which was just basically a commercial pop track. Well, the piano sample that's used in that Way Out West, The Gift, is the same as the second chorus as the Alliance First Impressions after 2 minutes and 46 seconds through. So I just wanted to mention it. Right, another favourite tape that I used to have is Mission Control Ratty, Codename John featuring Groove Rider, Dreams of Heaven. What was it? Guan's New Creation, the unreleased Alliance remix, Legend Records. They did release a copy of it in the end, 300 copies, Sublogical Recordings released. About 2013 area, maybe a bit before, maybe a bit after, I can't remember. Undercover Agent Time Travel, Formation, I think it's on 007 EP. DJ Ratty Step Back in Time, I think it is, from the Taste of Things to Come Formation Records. Lee and Tango Solutions, Legend Records, Legend Volume 3, the A-side of Lee and Guan's Too Deep. Omni Trio Through the Vibe, Bongo Mix. That's not a bongo beats edit or bongo edit, bongo mix, the proper version that's on the Omni Trio Volume 4 EP, the green LP cover. DJ Ratty, Source of All Evil, Jumpin' Jack Frost remix. Jumpin' Jack Frost Osmosis Ratty remix. Hedgehog Affair, The Pipe, Sound Entity. I'm trying to think. I think it's Lively Connection by Q Project, Spinback and Guanj. Can't remember. And then Area 39, featuring Matrix. The track that says The Music You Love. I'm trying to think what it's called. Forgotten. Area 39. That's right. No, then it goes into I can't bloody remember. Then you had DJ Subdub. DJ Seduction Subdub, DJSS remix. Ronnie Size, It's a Jazz Thing. Sorry about that. What was after that? Hedgehog Affair, Monomania, Sound Entity, Jumpin' Jack Frost, Bells of Dawn, Ratty remix. I can't really remember. I think that was on the Mission Control Ratty. The B-side of Doc Scott's a good mix as well, on the Sound of Summer. You had Pesce Warning, Easy G, The Invisible Man, Twisted, Gapper G and Hyper, The Information Centre, Rough Cut Recordings, on Remand and Control in the original version, which is separate to the version that's on Hard Leaders 4. And then obviously the tape ends. LTJ Bookham Sutra Live in Bristol 1993 is quite an interesting mix. It goes into a Pilgrim mix which starts with Music So Wonderful, which I think is DJ Vibe's Obsession, but I don't listen to that specific part, I listen to the LTJ Bookham part. My Uncle Dave knew a milkman called Brian. He drove around in a gas van and he played a specific track which was really good, and it's called Busy Bee and Deluxe, Take a Deep Breath, the dubplate version on Brain Recordings, released in 1993. The track listing for the LTJ Bookham part of that tape is LTJ Bookham Music Happy Raw, LTJ Bookham Atlantis, I Need You, good looking records both of them, Pesce Warning, which is the track that says Reaching Out, then obviously the track I just mentioned, Busy Bee and Deluxe, Take a Deep Breath, dubplate version. Then LTJ Bookham and Taylor, Bang the Drums, which is also on Good Looking Records. And then the tape ends. Actually, there's one track I've forgotten, it's the very first track. It says In My Soul. My Soul's on Fire or something like that, but I can't remember what it's called. I think it's called In My Soul, but I can't remember the artist. There's actually another tape I had in a miscellaneous tape cover, which is a picture of a world on a pendulum, which is Ratty. And go through the tracks on that one actually. It's like the dribbling head cover one, but the partner to that one basically, in the same series. So it's got the sort of the two triangles on the back of the tape cover, red triangles in a white square, except the cover's red instead of purple. And you don't have a dribbling face, but you have the actual world on the pendulum as a replacement to that, which has the alternative mixes to the mixes that were in the purple tape cover. The Ratty tape starts off with Engineers Fair's Spiritual Aura. I think it's a Reiki remix. Mental Power Unknown Intelligence, Formation Recordings. Code of Practice Infiltrate, which is a Photech record. On Certificate 18. Rough with a Smooth Twisted Girl, Basement Records. DJ SS The Rollout, Formation Records. Sacred Call the Cops remix, number 2, I think it's remix 2. There's 2 versions. You've got the what is it? So it's a white record, purple white record, Sacred. I'm not sure what version it was, I can't remember. I think it's remix 2. After Dark, Side Impact, which is a Top Buzz record. Dillinger, Deadly Deep Subs. On side B, with that tape, International Rude Boys featuring Matrix, Area 39, Formation. What's after that? I think it's Q Project, Spin Back and Guanch Lively Connection. DJ Ratty on the Techno Tip, Formation Records. A few seconds of DJSS, the intro, the piano sample, then it goes into Van Cleef, You and I, which is Top Buzz record. After that, it goes into Van Cleef, Life Began Changing, which is also a Top Buzz record. On PP9 recordings. Then it goes into Tango and Fallout, the Violator Volume 1, or Darringer Street, System AD. Before that, System AD, Darringer Street into Violator Volume 1, and then the tape ends. I might have missed out a couple of tunes, but I've had a drink tonight. But that's what's on the Ratty tape in the World on Pendulum. I'm not sure what mix it is, but I know the tracks. I forgot to mention that after DJ Ratty on the Techno Tip, Formation Records, it goes into Fast Floor on a level. Almost 3 a.m. Neighbour decides to come back in the room next to me and say, bang, smash you in. I'm going to give it a go for the Top Buzz Mission Control track list, Terrorist and Renegade Ray Keefe. Busy Bee Toughhead. Code of Practice, can we? No, hang on. No Foul Play Beats track. Code of Practice, Can We Change the Future dubplate version, which, by the way, infiltrates on the other side, which is a good track as well. I think it goes into it goes into the Criminal Minds, Jump the Gun, Smoke Eye Scientific. Jump the Gun, I think it's a sub-label, or Section 5, Section 12 of Moving Shadow. The Occupant, Introducing to You. It has Planetary Affair on the other side, but I only like the Introducing to You. Studio Pressure, Resolution, Photech. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it goes into House Crew Super Hecto. a hard one to do, the top buzz one, because I took them up to the track listing in years. It's got Fantasy and Smooth Dream On. Then it goes into House Crew Superhero. And then it goes into Flynn and Flora Jungle Love. And then Feel It, System X I think it is, or Intelligent Junglist, another track, I can't remember. Then it goes in, well actually the last track is by Baby Kane, which is, what's it called, it's called Intelligent Junglist, can't remember the artist. I think it's a Baby Kane track anyway, so it makes no difference. And there might be a couple I've missed in that, but I just wanted to try and see if I could mention the Top Buzz tracks. There's also a Top Buzz tape in the same cover, the Dribbling Head cover, where it's been a miscellaneous tape, which is the one I mentioned earlier, to Sound of Summer with Q Project Champion Sound, followed by Jim Pollard and Knight Rider. But actually, in fact, on some tapes it starts a bit earlier, because you've got What's My Code dub plate. Anyway, let's move on to the other alternative that's in that same tape cover. Subsequence, You're the One, 2's up recordings. Rough with a Smooth Twist, no, hang on. Yeah, Rough with a Smooth Twisted Girl, Basement Records. 4 Hero, Tom and Jerry, Air Freshener. Making Ground, Take Me Higher, Rago Mix, Photech Record, Rude Boy Recordings. Aphrodite or Amazon 2, Lovely Feeling. The Anthill Mob, 123, Adrian Blunt Remix, Underdog Recordings. Urban Wax or Liquid Wax, Rolling Intelligence, Liquid Wax Recordings. Tom and Jerry or 4 Hero, Still Lets Me Down, Reinforced Records. Tom and Jerry Reinforced Records for the Air Freshener as well. New Jack Pimps, Water Jelly, DJ Tactics Remix. Steppers Recordings. What's after that? I think it's DJSS Anything Possible, Formation Records. Groover Rider featuring Codename John, Into the Anthem. DJSS Motion, MA1 MA1 Motion DJSS Remix, Formation Records. Undercover Agent from the 007 EP, You and I, Formation Records. I think that's for that mix. Right, I want to talk about the Alliance First Impressions, which I mentioned a couple of minutes ago. Initially it was released on Legend Records on an acetate. I'm not sure what's on the other side. I think it's Deep Concentration or New Creation on the actual initial 10-inch promo, which is what Groove Rider used to play at Dreamscape 8 New Year's Eve 1993. But the actual track got released on Reinforced Records when it was available to the public on a picture disc record called Enforcer 6, which came as a double album for Enforcer 6 and 7. Some of those Enforcers records were actually released on CD, but they were limited editions back in the time it was released. The first 2 minutes and 46 seconds of the Alliance First Impressions gives the sound of like bats flying around in a cellar with a dark, creepy, moody, low tone, low down sound. After 2 minutes and 46 seconds through, there's a sample that's used in a track called Way Out West, The Gift, which was released in 1995 or 1996 area, which was just basically a commercial pop track. Well, the piano sample that's used in that Way Out West, The Gift, is the same as the second chorus as the Alliance first impressions after 2 minutes and 46 seconds through. So I just wanted to mention it. Right, another favourite tape that I used to have is Mission Control Ratty. Codename John featuring Groove Rider, Dreams of Heaven. What was it? Guan's New Creation, the unreleased Alliance remix, Legend Records. They did release a copy of it in the end, 300 copies, Sublogical Recordings released. About 2013 area, maybe a bit before, maybe a bit after, I can't remember. Undercover Agent Time Travel, Formation, I think it's on 007 EP. DJ Ratty Step Back in Time, I think it is, from the Taste of Things to Come Formation Records. Lee and Tango Solutions, Legend Records, Legend Volume 3, the A-side of Lee and Guan's Too Deep. Omni Trio Through the Vibe, Bongo Mix. That's not a bongo beats edit or bongo edit, bongo mix, the proper version that's on the Omni Trio Volume 4 EP, the green LP cover. DJ Ratty, Source of All Evil, Jumpin' Jack Frost remix. Jumpin' Jack Frost Osmosis Ratty remix. Hedgehog Affair, The Pipe, Sound Entity. I'm trying to think. I think it's Lively Connection by Q Project, Spinback and Guanj. Can't remember. And then Area 39, featuring Matrix. The track that says The Music You Love. I'm trying to think what it's called. I've forgotten. Area 39. That's right. No, then it goes into like, I can't bloody remember. Then you had DJ Subdub, DJ Seduction Subdub, DJSS Remix. Ronnie Size, It's a Jazz Thing. Sorry about that. What was after that? Hedgehog Affair, Monomania, Sound Entity. Jumpin' Jack Frost, Bells of Dawn, or Ratty remix. I can't really remember. I think that was on the Mission Control Ratty. The B-side of Doc Scott's good mix as well, on the Sound of Summer. You had Pesce Warning, Easy G, The Invisible Man, Twisted, Gapper G and Hyper, The Information Centre, Rough Cut Recordings, on Remand and Control in the original version, which is separate to the version that's on Hard Leaders 4. And then obviously the tape ends. LTJ Bookham Sutra Live in Bristol 1993 is quite an interesting mix. It goes into a Pilgrim mix which starts with Music So Wonderful, which I think is DJ Vibe's Obsession, but I don't listen to that specific part, I listen to the LTJ Bookham part. My Uncle Dave knew a milkman called Brian. He drove around in a gas van and he played a specific track which was really good, and it's called Busy Bee and Deluxe, Take a Deep Breath, the dubplate version on Brain Recordings, released in 1993. The track listing for the LTJ Bookham part of that tape is LTJ Bookham Music Happy Raw, LTJ Bookham Atlantis, I Need You, good looking records both of them, Pesce Warning, which is the track that says Reaching Out, then obviously the track I just mentioned, Busy Bee and Deluxe, Take a Deep Breath, dubplate version. Then LTJ Bookham and Taylor, Bang the Drums, which is also on Good Looking Records. and then the tape ends. Actually, there's one track I've forgotten. It's the very first track. It says "In My Soul." My soul's on fire or something like that, but I can't remember what it's called. I think it's called "In My Soul," but I can't remember the artist. There's actually another tape I had in a miscellaneous tape cover, which is a picture of a world on a pendulum, which is Ratty. And go through the tracks on that one actually. It's like the Dribbling Head cover one, but the partner to that one basically, in the same series. So it's got the sort of the two triangles on the back of the tape cover, red triangles in a white square, except the cover's red instead of purple. And you don't have a dribbling face, but you have the actual world on the pendulum as a replacement to that, which has the alternative mixes to the mixes that were in the purple tape cover. The Ratty tape starts off with Engineers Without Fear's Spiritual Aura. I think it's a Reiki remix. Mental Power Unknown Intelligence, Formation Recordings. Code of Practice Infiltrate, which is a Photech record. On Certificate 18. Rough with a Smooth Twisted Girl, Basement Records. DJ SS The Rollout, Formation Records. Sacred Call the Cops remix number 2. I think it's remix 2. There's two versions. You've got the what is it? So it's a white record, purple white record, Sacred. I'm not sure what version it was, I can't remember. I think it's remix 2. After Dark, Side Impact, which is a Top Buzz record. Dillinger, Deadly Deep Subs. On side B, with that tape, International Rude Boys featuring Matrix, Area 39, Formation. What's after that? I think it's Q Project, Spin Back and Guan's Lively Connection. DJ Ratty on the Techno Tip, Formation Records. A few seconds of DJSS, the intro, the piano sample. Then it goes into Van Cleef, You and I, which is Top Buzz record. After that, it goes into Van Cleef, Life Began Changing, which is also a Top Buzz record. On PP9 recordings. Then it goes into Tango and Fallout, the Violator Volume 1, or Darringer Street, System AD. Before that, System AD, Darringer Street into Violator Volume 1, and then the tape ends. I might have missed out a couple of tunes, but I've had a drink tonight. But that's what's on the Ratty tape in the World on Pendulum. I'm not sure what mix it is, but I know the tracks. I forgot to mention that after DJ Ratty on the Techno Tip, Formation Records, it goes into Fast Floor on a Level. Almost 3 a.m. Neighbour decides to come back in the room next to me and say, bang, smash you in. I'm going to give it a go for the Top Buzz Mission Control track list, Terrorist and Renegade Ray Keith. Busy Bee Toughhead. Code of Practice, can we? No, hang on. No Foul Play Beats track. Code of Practice, Can We Change the Future dubplate version, which, by the way, infiltrates on the other side, which is a good track as well. I think it goes into it goes into the Criminal Minds, Jump the Gun, Smoke Eye Scientific. Jump the Gun, I think it's a sub-label, or Section 5, Section 12 of Moving Shadow. The Occupant, Introducing to You, It has Planetary Affair on the other side, but I only like the introducing to you. Studio Pressure Resolution, Photec. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it goes into House Crew Super. No. It's a hard one to do, the top buzz one, because I took them up to the track listing in years. It's got Fantasy and Smooth Dream On. Then it goes into House Crew Superhero. And then it goes into Flynn and Flora Jungle Love. And then Feel It, System X I think it is, or Intelligent Junglist, another track, I can't remember. Then it goes in, well actually the last track is by Baby Kane, which is, what's it called, it's called Intelligent Junglist, I can't remember the artist. I think it's a Baby Kane track anyway, so it makes no difference. There might be a couple I've missed in that, but I just wanted to try and see if I could mention the Top Buzz tracks. There's also a Top Buzz tape in the same cover, the Dribbling Head cover, where it's been a miscellaneous tape, which is the one I mentioned earlier, to Sound of Summer with Q Project Champion Sound, followed by Jim Polar and Knight Rider. But actually, in fact, on some tapes it starts a bit earlier, because you've got What's My Code dub plate. Anyway, let's move on to the other alternative that's in that same tape cover. Subsequence, you order 1, 2's up recordings. Rough with a Smooth Twist, no hang on. Yeah, Rough with a Smooth Twisted Girl, Basement Records. 4 Hero, Tom and Jerry, Air Freshener. Making Ground, Take Me Higher, Raggo Mix, Photec Record, Rude Boy Recordings. Aphrodite or Amazon 2, Lovely Feeling. The Anthill Mob, 1, 2, 3, Adrian Blunt Remix, Underdog Recordings. Urban Wax or Liquid Wax, Rolling Intelligence, Liquid Wax Recordings. Tom and Jerry or 4 Hero, Still Lets Me Down, Reinforced Records. Tom and Jerry Reinforced Records for the Air Freshener as well. New Jack Pimps, Water Jelly, DJ Tactics Remix. Steppers Recordings. What's after that? I think it's DJSS Anything Possible, Formation Records. Groover Rider featuring Codename John, Into the Anthem. DJSS Motion, MA1 MA1 Motion DJSS Remix, Formation Records. Undercover Agent from the 007 EP, You and I, Formation Records. I think that's for that mix. Right, Shot Dead Justin called Alex Lullis, Shopping Trolley said, quite a lot of stuff. I'm going to skip that sheet, I'll mention it later. Just a similar situation last night. Farts My Whole Life, Sloth said. Right, Cell call at me with spit talking lines in my face, walking out, penis up, motorbike timed, and choked by catalytic converter in black and blue sick, white, grey, whatever, cars, timed. Right, Sunny, penis up, motorbike angled into me as I re-approached the road that his motorbike was timed, and which was on hold as well, and then the door, black, white, so, white, black sexual car timed, Lisa Pied lookalike timed, dark brown car, 2 blue cars, and white cars, and sick. Right, 4 cell calls at me, I'm gonna force to be sneezed in the face. Sick look by teenage, fuck's sake, blonde woman, pushing a buggy at me, and then magic t-shirt. I've got to rearrange my schedule, they're packing the bus station, too fucking packed for me to do anything. They're pushing me away, the government are rearranging my movement. nothing I can do about it. Bow whistles and Nike bag before that. Right? Diverting is a Tesco van and a grey car and a white van. Whatever you do, if it's sexual, do it in a sexual way with a specific name that I can't say because it will offend a specific person. Set up, rough person my way. Sick white, orange, black and blue white. Penis shoots up to bike. I can't say this word as a van. It's is your man van. But I can't fucking even go down there. They're fucking diverting me down there as well. They want me back home. Right, girls in the school have to talk and say, oh, he's getting a break in a cursed, possessed way. Spit of talk, it hits my eye. I've forgotten what the other setup. Right, firstly, knife shaped times. I can't get enough of these setups. I don't pick up with it. Blue sec times. Loads of black and blue sec are up at 120 cars. Right, so they forced me off the bus direction as I said, so I'm rearranging my schedule. 4 loud bites to erections. Started car, 2 red white, black and blue sick white section. I've been forced to cross the road, nearly hit as well. Got the bearded type people with baseball caps being organised in my direction since I was diverted from the bus station. Right, the government seems to be wanting to get fucking nasty. It's a blue knife shaped. Basically, after that, before that, sorry, blue knife shaped, black grey photo taken of me. Before that, caution, grumpy man at work. T-shirt. But before that, I set up to tell me that you should be in a sexual relationship with. Well, I'm not going to say the family member's name, but there's no need for it. But that's the way the government want to organise these setups, basically. Right, about 15 cars collide with me on the corner, on the bridge. In total, about 25 cars. A bit more now. Right, the other thing I wanted to mention is in the last 10 years, they've been designing the pushchair or the buggy that a baby is pushed in so that it's knife shaped. Where that's what's been occurring every pushchair that's occurred so far today. Like I said, I haven't been far today because I've been diverted with control setups, but that's what's occurred when it has occurred, knife shaped. Sexy's school van timed. Before I moved to Yeovil in September the 10th, 20 or whatever year it was, just before I moved there, I was actually camping. I was camping at 2 places, initially Kingscliff Woodland, but someone in a crowd went arguing to shout to kill me. Now, the trouble I had when I was camping there was pretty bad, back at that time before I moved. I think I stayed there 5 weeks, but there's one time we had a torrential rainstorm and my tent got completely drenched and I had to re-go there. There was another rainstorm, it wasn't as torrential, but it was very heavy, but I managed to put the tarpaulin and sheet over the tent in a certain way so I didn't get wet, and then obviously every single day I was there, apart from a drizzly evening, was sunny with blue skies for the whole month. There was one specific night when I was camping in that woodland, I had to call 999, I had to call my dad as well, because a crowd of people went to smash me in, thinking I was cement, saying I was going to beat me, and the problem is, these were fucking roughnecks, these are not people that I could have in a fight. We're talking complexity and build. We're talking fucking muscular as fuck. So, they're breaking off fucking tree branches the size of my fucking arms in a mood to go and fucking hammer me one. And these are not fucking, these are not fucking branches that are like, just broken dead tree branches. These are proper live branches. These people that went to go after me were fucking hard as nails. So, they were shouting their heads off. Their tempers were aggressive. And then obviously my dad took me to Barrow Sand Dunes for the 1st of August, and then there was some nights I went back to mine. But I couldn't stay at mine, because something was causing eye problems. Intense dryness in the eye, and it felt like the eye was being forced open and outwards with extreme grittiness and dryness in the eye. And I was getting eye problems persistently, though it was only happening there at that time. Anyway, if I was to say would I camp back at these 2 places, I thought after a couple of years had gone, things might be a bit better, or a few years have gone. But in actual fact, it's a lot worse. September 2023, which is last year, I did a camping trip because I had an appointment, and also because of the heat wave. I couldn't stick the temperatures of 34 degrees in my room. Today's quite hot actually, it's nowhere near as that, but it was bloody hot. It's going to get hotter because it's usually August, and the early part of September is usually the hottest month of the year. Sometimes July as well. July can be fucking hot. June's usually the cooler month. May and June's where it gets really hot, you notice that you sweat. But when it gets exceptionally hot, it's usually around about the end of June, July, which is around about now in fact, or a couple of weeks from now, depending on the year. Anyway, I have to put the bag down. I was looked at as a piece of shit, you know, bisexual ladies. That's always going to be the same. I'm going to have to be with, basically, I've been nailed to the cross, you know. I've have to be with people that sexually abused me as a child, or I'm known as a sick cunt. It's as simple as that. There's nothing I can do about it. God's people are not going to help me. There's not going to be a return of God's people to make that age gap and allow that difference in age and to go with me or whatever. I mean, there are people my age that are sexual, but they're very far and few between. But we're looking at people to be fair, I'm not saying this to be nasty, but people in their 60s or grannies in their 60s, because they come from a different time and they don't take drugs, or they don't spoil their lives in this sort of modern community way of socialising or nightlife scene, they do actually have smoother skin than people in their 30s or 40s and possibly some in their 50s today. Now that's what's making it difficult, and I can't take to that sort. So it goes to what I was saying yesterday on a video. In the foreign countries, where people get that rough skin or that unhygienic looking appearance at the age of about 25 in the UK, is 60 or 55 in other countries. You know, and then obviously if it's under the age of 25, you know, they got you down as a sick bastard in the UK, or tell you that you're supposed to up the age or not supposed to be of a sexual type. But anyway, I'm going to cut that story short because I've done lots of documentaries on sexuality, and that's all on YouTube, on quite a few channels that I've had in the past as well. Right, let's get back to this camping business. So obviously the camping business at the Woodland, probably per day, if you were to work out the threats I had in one day, would be the equivalent to a week's worth of threats when I was camping there initially before I moved to Thorn House in the Oval. At Barrow Sand Dunes, I only had to move my tent once in nearly 2 months, or around that sort of period of time when I was camping there. This time round, I've had to move my tent every single night, and I was in danger of being attacked and killed, and there's a possibility that someone had a lethal injection they wanted to put in me. They had a plastic glove on, and it looked like my ex-mugger in fact, or a relative to him, and he's wearing a snake t-shirt. So I don't know what to say about that, but I was stuck there for 3 hours doing absolutely nothing, trying to hide from them. I couldn't even go to the toilet or anything. Eventually they thought I just participated and didn't bother going to the graveyard to look. They're more interested in watching to see who was coming, to see because they wanted to kill me, because they were actually seriously mistaking me as Sven. Anyway, if I was to go, if that was a choice of going camping again, Barrow, I don't think I'd ever camp again. Not even camp. It'd be too risky. In actual fact, moving to Burnham-on-Sea would be too risky because too many people are mistaking me as Sven. It's not a place I'd go to. I mean, if I had an appointment, for example, for like a social worker appointment or a critical appointment, or for different things, a dentist appointment, for example, you'd have to try and look for somewhere else to camp. You'd have to go and do what you need to do in a day, and if you couldn't make it back in a day, you'd have to find another place you'd have to go to, but just make sure there was a shop. For facilities, it pays off to go into a proper camping site, but the problem is too many people are starting on people these days. Back in the 1990s, people's behaviour on camping sites was pretty much tame, but they've all had to drop their prices from £25 from the 1990s for camping for one night to say like £10 or £12 due to the behaviour of the whole community out there. And that's just one of the reasons that the price has been dropped,
between camping and whatever. Anyway, time to an itchy bumhole and a slight erection. They timed that loud bike that you just heard go past. So as far as King's Cliff Woodland is concerned, it would have to be a one-off. If that, I mean, I wouldn't do it unless it's absolutely necessary, and I don't know if I'd be able to enjoy it if I did, because it would be risky. But if it was like a one-off, say you got there in the afternoon or whatever, and you didn't get too many people give you aggro, and you thought, oh, there's nowhere else you can go or whatever, or you got an appointment, I may chance that one night, but that would be the limit, I think. And it wouldn't be a place I'd go back to for like at least a year or more before chancing another one night sort of thing, and that'd be, you know. In actual fact, I'm not actually sure I would. I'd probably look for new places, because the type of press I was getting and the amount of people that are getting nastier with me and thinking I'm Sven is in a mass, it's in a fucking mass, because there's over 1,000 people mistaking me as that person in the 8 or 9 days that I was camping or visiting these places in the heat wave anyway, so, you know, it's bad. Last night I was walking around the kitchen giving track listings for jungle mixes, dance tracks, tapes or whatever. Well, I thought I'd do the Jungle Techno 5, the deep side CD, since I've got a few seconds before I reach the catalytic converter hot point, which is because I've had to, you know, doing barrack again because I've been forced off the bus direction. So we got studio pressure resolution, Photech recordings. Brothers Was Soul, Music Is So Special. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it's either Precious Materials or Basement Records. We can't guarantee that because it's not a track I've sort of really taken much note of. Rough with a Smooth Twisted Girl, that's definitely Basement Records. Jeephead, Close Encounter. I'm not sure what the record label is for that one actually. Then you've got, what's after that? Van Cleef, Life Began Changing, which is on PP Recordings, which is a top extra track. It's stated Peace in Our Time on the CD cover, so I made a bit of a mistake on the wrong side of the record on if they took it for a record or they wanted to list it as that accidentally. I don't know how it got the drum and bass floor burners, there's quite a lot of errors on there as well because they're taking them from vinyl or whatever. So Urban Wax or Liquid Wax, Rolling Intelligence, Liquid Wax Recordings. I think it's Ray Keith Dubplate Terrorist Mix Part 2, I'm not sure, or the final plate mix is definitely called Dubplate. What's my code? Then you've got, I think it's DJ Chrome and DJ Chrome and Mr. Time, the license. Then you've got, I can't remember what order it is now, but you've got Flying, Remix, Basement Fill. Then you've got Steve C and Monitor, the Razor's Edge. Hang on, just get past here in a minute. Skeleton Recordings. 10 Essence of, that's track 11, isn't it? Essence of Aura is also known as Original Substitute. Can I Dream, Uncut Dub, Outstanding Recordings. Fast Law. The Change it's listed as, but it's actually Fast Floor Tripping on Sunshine. But the track, there's another good track on that record, and it's called Fast Floor Timeless, which is a light mint green record. It's a really good track. So that's Jungle Techno 5. Obviously I'm not thinking straight, so I haven't got it properly. I might have a few errors there, but as far as I know, that's pretty much the track listing for Jungle Techno 5, the deep side. CD Top 20 or something like that. I actually can't even bloody remember the catalogue number on that one. Jungle Massive Collective 1 is a CD I don't listen to really. I know the catalogue number to that, HFCD 42, I haven't forgotten that one. That starts off with M-Beat Style, the House Crew Superhero. I think it's M-Beat, I can't remember actually. Then you have Bug Cannon and Plastic Jam, I can't fucking remember. I could try and do some of it, or get some of it. Now this one I don't know the actual CD properly to the order of the tracks. Well, I do, to some extent. So you had, I've forgotten what the other couple of tracks are. Then you've got Brain Killers, Screwface, Kemet Records, Smokey Joe, A Special Request. I think it's Rue Project Thunder after that. Undercover Agent, Rougher, Part 3, Splash Recordings, that's a bloody good track, mind. After that, Dart Intellects, What You Gonna Do. Number 10 I thought was a Bug Cannon Plastic Jam. and then there's no, Made in 2 Minutes is one of them. I think that's track 4 actually. Trying to think what the no, actually no, it's I'm not sure actually. It might be Made in 2 Minutes. Track 10. 11 Nocturnal. I think it's Rogue Unit. I can't remember. Then Smokey Joe featuring City Rank Shining, which is her Joe Brody tune, which is the same producer that did the Dar Dogs Non-Stop, which is on Dance Trance Kenny Ken, and that's another fucking good tape. Dance Trance Kenny Ken starts off with Dar Intellects, What You Gonna Do, before going into Chris B, The Dark Side of the Jungle, Chris B remix I think it is, and then it goes into a track called All Massive. I'm trying to think who does that track. I do know, it's just not in the top of my head. I think it's a Soap Bar recording. Oh, Massive. The Influence, I think. Then after that, what's after that? Atlas, Second Heaven, which is on DJ Recordings. Then you've got Tribe of Isaiah, but is also known as X Project, or Congo Natty, Jar Sunshine dubplate mix. Then it goes into the House Crew Superhero My Night. Then it goes into Dar Dogs Non-Stop, which I just mentioned, which is Primetime Wax, and you have Cool Operator on the flip side of that record. After the Dogs Non-Stop, you've got a Full Hero tune, which is Tom and Jerry, Maximum Booty Style Part 2 on Reinforced Records. And then I think it goes into Dillinger Calculus Beats, I'm not 100% sure, or You Don't Know by Dillinger, or something like that, and it sort of goes, let's get to the side B of that tape. That's a tape I had in head cover, a Dance Trance Dribbling head cover type tape, but whether it's actually an accidental tape cup that they put in now, I don't know, but I got it in the Pound Basket in Tech Check many years ago, because they were putting miscellaneous tapes in there as well as the Mission Control. So I think Leviticus the Burial was on there, that Kenny Ken tape, and then obviously Music Box was possibly on there at some point. I can't remember. Ronnie Size. Just recall those 2 tracks being familiar. I haven't listened to the tape for at least 15 plus years, so it's difficult to remember properly the track listing. Then you've got, let's go to the better part of the tape. Jazz Juice, which is Wax Doctor and Alex Reese, and they're also known as Unit 1, and they do the track Jazz Juice, which is on Precious Materials Recordings. Then it goes into Dread Bass, which is a Moving Shadow track, which is the same producer as Ascendant, Ultra Vibe basically, who does What Kind of World. Then it goes into Dillinger Warrior, Deadly Vinyl or something like that, and then straight after that you've got what was it after? I think it's Chimeria or something like that, called Deeper Life, which goes Deeper Life, and I can't remember if the tape ends then, I'm not sure, or whether it goes into something else. This is a long time since I listened to these tapes. I've been mainly the last 20 plus years. In actual fact, listening to these mixtapes is rare, very rare. Properly listening to these tapes are going back to the 1990s, so it is difficult, but there's some Never-Ending Story tapes that are good as well. Dance Trance Doc Scott, and Dance Trance Fallout, and Dance Trance DJ SS, the Never-Ending Story tapes I used to have. And there's some really good tracks on there, especially the DJ SS. So you've got tracks like, on the SS you've got I think it starts off with DJ Mayhem in Nice, or Ray Keith remix or something, in Nice. DJ Mayhem in Nice, Ray Keith remix, something like that. It goes into stuff like the Intense to Quickening. You've got DJ SS Anything Possible on there. I think that's before it. Then you had, I can't remember if it's Night Moves, but Q Project, but it wouldn't be much of that track if it was. I'm trying to think. You definitely had DJ Crystal, Your Destiny, which mixed into Code Blue, Angels in Rhythm, which is a really good track, one of my top favourites, in fact, because of a dream I had in 2014 area, or before then. And then after that, it's sort of, can't remember the tracks after that. Like it's a long time since I listened to that tape. In actual fact, I've not listened to that tape since the actual 90s, I don't think, or with my little cassette player that I was going through while I pissed, basically, just randomly going through tracks before I got rid of all my tapes. Which is like a Talkboy type thing, you know, music player type thing, recorder, which I was playing music on, because that had a speaker on it. So you had DJSS to Bounce as the, well no, Mark T Smokers as the first track on side B, and then it goes into DJSS and EQ to Bounce. MA1 Motion, I think you had Omni Trio Renegade Snares, a Flower Play remix, and then MA1 the Switch. Can't remember which way around that was now. Doc Scott was probably the one of the tapes where I had the really good tracks on there. So you had Deep Blue, the Helicopter Tune, the Roughage Crew remix. You had Distortion Cut, Essence of Aura, the remix of that track. FBD Project, Journeys, banging tunes. You also had on that tape Wax Doctor, The Saint, the Simon Templar remix. What else was on there? There's quite a lot of good tracks on that mix. Fast Floyd, not sure if it's Minesweeper or Seventh Heaven, because the track got that's on the Never Ending Story tape was released on the wrong side of the record, so I'm not sure what it is, but I think it's Seventh Heaven, but it's often referred to as Minesweeper. On the DJ Fallout tape, that starts off with Ronnie Size and DJ Die, the call-in. Then it goes into Jumping Jack Frost, Pornography, 1994 remix. I can't quite remember what was after that. There's a few sort of light-headed tracks. You had Beat Shuffle, that was on there. That got spun back, so that was a requested rewind when it was played back in its day. Spirits from an Urban Jungle, White Lightning, that's a fucking good track, which is on Vinyl Frantics, I think, label, I'm not sure. It's been reissued actually, and I can't remember what the original label was, unless it was that, I'm not sure. I think it was White House actually, White House Recordings actually, the original, and went on to the Frantics label. Also you had, actually I can't remember the tape that well. It's sort of, I know there's some good tracks on there, I'll tell you that, but I've mentioned the best ones. I think you had Hyper on Experience, Disturbance Tango remix coming to the end of that Fallout tape on side B, if I remember, or it wasn't that, it was Hyper on Experience. No, I think it was Lord and No Lands actually, but, or if it isn't, it would have been, sorry, I'm getting confused now. It would have been Lord of No Lines or Disturbance, one of the two, the remix of one of them. Although I don't listen to the Jungle Mania 3, it's a pretty easy one to remember. Obviously I'm not going to remember it properly, but I'm going to give it my best, because obviously again, since I listened to Jungle Mania 3, you're looking at 20 years ago, or even looking at the bloody CD cover. But I do remember, it seems to be one that plays in my head a lot. Soundman featuring the Elizabeth Troy, Greater Love. I think it's the original version, because it's the same version that's on Smash Hits 95. Because Timothy Moulton, who was at Avalon School back in 1995, bought that specific cassette, and I asked him, I phoned him up, because at the time he had a number of 01934 732 664 or something like that, and I spoke to him on the phone to find out the information of the track, basically. Then you had DJ Rap, Intelligent Woman, which is the second track on Jungle Mania 3. Then it was, I think it's Trinity, Gangster. Then OJ Mix. And then it was DJSS, The Lighter, which is Sound of the Future, Lighter. I'm not keen on that track. It's got the theme from the Love Story. Then Remark, Rest in Peace, R.I.P. Again, I'm not keen on Remark's music. There's a couple of tracks he did that are okay, but as a raw, I'm not that keen on Remark. LTJ Bookham, Horizons. The Dream Team, Stamina. DJ Chrome and Mr. Time, Studio One Lick. L-I-K, that is Lick. which is also on Dance Trance DJSS. We have the technology, the last track on side A before it mixes into DJ Fallout, the Ripper on side B, going into Fallen Angels, Hello Lover, DJ Hype remix, and JB and Ascend, not Ascend, it might be Ascend actually, JB and Let It Go record. But anyway, that's not to talk about the Fallout technology tape. Let's talk about Jungle Mania 3. Prisoner featuring Tenor Fly, I think it is, Fire, the original gangster type style version. I think track 11 was Bassman, Dar Bass Too Dark, or L double and Bassman. 12, I think it's Simple Things, Shy FX. 13, track 13, I can't remember. So I was trying to think. There's Badman More in 94, I forgot about that track. And then you had DJ Ron. It's stated Cannonland, but it's actually DJ Ron Dangerous. So they took it from the wrong side of the record, or when they put it on there, they put the wrong track title on there. They titled it as Cannonland, but it's Dangerous. Then you had T-Power, Chasing a Dream. Loggy, Now That You're Gone, Loggi. Then you had on Jungle Mania 3, oh god, what was after that? Now That You're Gone. That's a good point. I can't remember. You had More Rockers. What's it called? I Need Some Lovin'. I Need Some Lovin'. It goes like that. But they've titled it More Rockers, You're Gonna Make Me, Smith and Mighty Mellow Mix. But it's actually titled I Need Your Lovin'. I think the other track where it's titled fucking hell, I've forgotten. You're Gonna Make Me, Smith and Mighty Mellow Mix is the other track on the other side of the records. They put the other side on instead of that, basically. So there is good tracks on there. Obviously they're a bit more commercial sounding than stuff I listen to. However, that last track I just mentioned, I Need Some Lovin', is actually quite a good track even to this day. And also T-Power, Chasing the Dream's quite a dark track. But it's dark, but it's commercial sounding dark. But going back in those days, in 1995, when Telstar Records were releasing the Jungle Mania series, the music laws was not as restricted as today, and it wasn't just full-on ragamuffin jungle tracks. I mean, the most of it is, but you know, it was slightly deeper. They were digging a little bit deeper to a point where people could listen to it or like the music that's on there, even if it's basic or good. Nowadays, they just put a load of shit on there. But I mean, Jungle Mania 94, number 1. They've even got Subnation Scotty remix on there. Deep Blue, the helicopter tune. Tra-la-la Boom Boom, which is Rat Pack. Even Gee's tune by Nicky Blackmarket. I like the beginning sample of that. And if you go into the Ultimate Jungle collection, you've got Marvelous Kane, Dubplate Style, which is a good track. Even It's a Jazz Thing, Ronnie Size, and you know, they did put better tracks on these compilations on the commercial CDs. But then again, even the Jungle Techno series, like I mentioned earlier, Jungle Techno 5, it was a commercial CD back in its day. It might not have been a chart CD. It wasn't a pirate CD. It's a proper release, you know, so you could get it in places like HMV or Our Price Records, and even Woolworths. Although Woolworths didn't really specialise in music like that, if you had stuff that was going in the sale or they had some stocks come in, there's likely to have some jungle technos or some drum and bass selections or 100% drum and basses in there, guaranteed. So you know, it wasn't, you know, that rare back in its day. But like I said, music laws have changed over time, and obviously all this music's gone now. Are there any really underground sounding tracks that have ever been commercial, or I mean really commercial? Well, believe it or not, this is going to shock you, there has. And it's quite a big tune as well. If you know Good Looking Records, you're going to know the track. It's on Fantasia, Takes You Into the Jungle as well. It's going to shock you when I say this, but Dope Travelling Part 2, believe it or not, it's actually a very commercial track. And it's also the first track on the Points in Time series when they reissued the old school stuff on the whole of the Points in Time series, which is Dope Travelling Part 2, Good Looking Records, which was, I can't remember if it was released in 1993 or 94. sorry, burping there, 1994, sorry. It's been on quite a few Jungle compilations that were released. On the Japan release, it's released on Jungle Beats Volume 2, which is quite a big tune. But before I go any further, that track has been re-altered. Where the breakdown part in the track, you've got the vibes, the bass vibes, where they've been rearranged. So obviously there's a possibility that the track's been remade, or they've lost the original recording and have had to redo it and made a slight boo-boo when they re-altered it and changed the area of where they put the bass line patterns in the track. However, it's not enough to ruin the track. It is still a good track. But I do prefer the original real deal version of the 1993 version, or the early 94 version that was released. Anyway, Jungle Beats 2 is one of the compilations in Japan where it was released. In the UK, it's on a CD called Jungle Rhythms Volume 2, which is basically a dark ragga jungle CD. But like I said, that particular jungle track, Dope Travelling Part 2, is a commercial track. It is the only track, mind. We got Fallen Angels, Hello Lover, DJ Hype remix, which was on Jungle Mania 2, which is quite a creepy sort of dark, deep, jungly track, breakdown type style track. But when it comes to the proper breakdown tracks, Dope Travelling Part 2 roars over anything when it comes to the being commercial, because it's the only, or the only one I know anyway, the only commercial jungle track that is made in that type of way. So it's also been released on Drum and Bass. There's a grey CD cover, I can't remember what it's called, but it's a drum and bass which is styled in the same style. So the writing's styled in the same way on the drum and bass CD that Dope Travelling Part 2 is on as the drum and bass selections. And incidentally, the drum and bass selections have been advertised on television. And you've got tracks like Lick Back Organisation, Maniac Music, the VIP mix, which says this: it's a new dawn, a new dawn, a new dawn. It's a new dawn, it's a new dawn. So if you were to play it, it would sound like it was saying, there's a new God, it's a new God, it's a new God. There's a new God, it's a new God. And believe it or not, that's a commercial track. Back in that time, these sorts of tracks were allowed on these compilations. Let's look at Undercover Agent Ruffer Part 3, which is on Jungle Massive, HFCD 42 compilation, which was released in 1994. And that's a big CD, it's a commercial CD. Warner Chappell Music and Labello Blanco recordings are connected with the release of that CD. The Undercover Agent track goes rougher than a razor, rougher than a razor, da 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 da, this a rougher than. Then you've got a breakdown part in it which goes da da dun, da da dun, hypnotise you, ties you, ties you. So if you remember that, I don't know the actual wording to the rougher lyrics, but they were putting these sorts of tracks on, you know, commercial jungle CDs back in the day. Nowadays it wouldn't be approved, it wouldn't be allowed. They can't even reissue the Jungle Mania series. If they reissue any jungle tracks, they're choosing the lightest possible headed tracks, or the cheesiest type jungle tracks that they've ever made in that time period. And none of these people like these sorts of tracks. They're even the jungle hits. You listen to Jungle Hits 1. You've got a track called, I think it's the Underworld, Murder Them, which is the same Underworld that does Soundboy in a Problem Man, Jesus Christ, Soundboy. And then it goes, do, yeah, da, Jungle Love. You know, it's basically called Soundman in a Problem. No, Soundboy in a Problem, but it's by the Underworld. It's the Soundman recordings. But it's on the same, I think it's on Jetstar Records. Because you've also got another one I know that I used to have, but unfortunately I lost this track completely. I did buy it on vinyl many years ago, about 15-20 years ago, whatever. It's called Direct to Metal. This is an example, and it sounds like it says, this is the hit sound, and it's on the Dance Transmission Control mixes. I think it's on the Top Buzz and on the Jumping Jack Frost tapes that I used to have, obviously, but I've lost that track and this music's gone now, so I've lost a lot of my music. I have hardly any of my music at all, but you know, but going back to the commercial stuff, Dope Travelling Part 2 is also on Fantasia Takes You Into the Jungle too. And if you on that mix CD, you've even got Pesce World of Music. And this CD has been released in 9 other countries, including Italy and Japan. So, you know, it's a big CD, it's commercial. But the LTJ Bookham mix is very similar to the Dreamscape mix. I think it's Dreamscape 10 or 11, I can't remember which LTJ Bookham mix is. And that LTJ Bookham mix is class. Even the FBD project Journeys is on there. And then on the Groove Rider mix, you've got Mental Power, Unknown Intelligence on the, which is the original version from the Control EP, which has Cool and Sexy on it, and Dream Sequence. Cool and Sexy is an in-between track. It's not bad, but it's one that you can take or leave. Dream Sequence I'm not too keen on. It's okay. It's on a DJSS Dance Trance tape as well, which I had in a miscellaneous yellow cover, orangey colour cover years ago. What else? Yeah, Codename John featuring Groove Rider, Dreams of Heaven, which is on that Fantasia Takes You Into a Jungle Volume 2. Studio Pressure, Book of Changes, a Photec record. Appaloosa Unplugged, the Chaos and Julia set remix, the same version as I think it is, that's on Jungle Techno 8. And Jungle Techno 8's got 4 good tracks on their mind. Intense, Ecstatic, Bliss and Tumble, Free Me. The Appaloosa track that I mentioned. The other tracks, okay. I wouldn't classify it as the best track, but it's okay. Peace and Love, Unity. But anyway, let's go back to Fantasia Takes You Into the Jungle 2. You've got Tom and Jerry Still Lets Me Down, which is like a banjo type track. It's produced by 4Hero, which is an okay track. And then obviously there's Red One, Alive and Kicking on there as well, which is good, the original version, which is on Lifting Spirits Recordings. So I can go on about music all day, but I'm going to leave it there. But as it stands today, when it comes to all these types of tracks, all this music, the whole lot's gone, because obviously music laws have changed over the last 20 years. I mean, even in the late 1990s, most of these tracks had to go under to keep up with the times and to keep up with authority and music laws and restrictions and doing away with underground music. It was seen as okay in the beginning, but people were getting very intellectual in the days when they were making underground music, and then the government cracked down hard on it because they wanted to do away with it. And take into account that when all this sort of stuff came out, you know, all this old school jungle, all this early techno stuff, or house music came out, you've got to take into account this is the earliest electronic music that's ever been produced. So you had electronica that started off with a popcorn track in the 70s. That was the first electronic track ever made, to my knowledge. And then obviously they started using that electronic synthesizers in songs in the 80s. And then, you know, late 89 was basically the first ever jungle track. Lenny D. Ice, We Are IE, which was made in 1989, but it didn't actually get released until 1991. How accurate that is, I do not know, whether it was made in 1990 or 1989, but people are saying on the internet it came out in 89. But the likelihood is it came out in 1990. But even so, that's just the start of the 90s. So when all this underground music was being produced, it was where people were just messing about trying to make good sounds, hardcore sounds, in the earliest of technology, of the development and the changes of modern technology that's been given to them, basically. So it's really old music. It is old music. Today, it'd be seen as anyone can make a track like that in a few minutes on a programme. But the technology back then wasn't like that. And people were making tracks and they were making them good. And they were doing, you know, all sorts of different things. But anyway, all that's gone now. The only music you can listen to if you're into the deep sort of music, you might have to take away the drum beats, but you can still get dark ambient and dark classical, I guess, if you're into deep music and not a cheerful, happy, jolly life. But the problem is, a lot of the commercial music, or a lot of drum and bass and happy hardcore is all changed. It's all different styles now. It's much more happy. It's more like a jolly, happy, and sort of have sounds like woo, 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 woo. They have to make it sound a bit more. The girls like the sort of more modern sound. The girls like music that's modern. They see it as Dossers music. When it comes to my music, if music I'm into or what I listen to, girls think it's a load of shit. Girls think it's they think it's crap. They think it's Dossers music. They think it sounds common as muck, and they see jungle music as being like that, basically. Where they like a bit more standard in their music. They like sort of happier samples, moderner sound effects, and it becomes more sort of you know, and that's what sells, you see, and that's what people want. And even hip-hop, although hip-hop has had some darkish tracks made in the past, or throughout time, you've got to take into account that a lot of the hip-hop is a lot more cheerful than this old school jungle and underground red techno stuff of the 1990s. This music's gone. The original recordings of that, they're trying to scrape up old records just to rescue these tracks. Night Force Record Company is one company in London, I think it's based in London, I'm not sure. Could be Surrey, I'm not sure. I've not really looked up on that, but Night Force Records is one of the only record companies that's rescuing the old school tracks from records because they can't take it from the original recording sources like the DAT tapes, because all the DJs lost them, all the record companies have gone over the years, and they're only reissuing it because the demand for the music. But Night Force Records have made it clear that this is not going to go on for much longer. They said it's going to go down eventually because they have a time limit on how long they can do it, and they're restricted as well what tracks they can release, even if they do reissue it. I was surprised they got away with, from the man like Pennywise, suspension of disbelief. So what's going to happen is they're going to release it, but they'll only be able to put it on vinyl. And then when that day comes, they'll go under, and so will all the other record companies. Because in 10 years from now, all this music's not going to be here. We're going to be into modern music. The whole lot's going to change completely. In the years of when I was listening to jungle, do you think there would have been anybody else that liked it? It was very far and few between. Out of all the people at Avalon School, there was only 3 people that liked jungle. And that was Peter, Jason, and Jake. Peter Wheeler wasn't really into jungle at all. He liked a bit of rave, but he wasn't really that keen on it, as his favourite sort of music is country and western. When it came to Jason Cox, he was more into techno, and so was Kevin Joyce. Kevin still likes techno today, but there is lots of people that, you know, the older generation do, because the older generation were brought up into the techno scene. Techno first established in 1981 when they sampled it in Ultravox Vienna and a couple of other tracks. But the proper full development of techno didn't actually come in until the late 80s or the early 1990s. And then there was a lot of house music as well that was occurring, which is sort of the beat came in initially because of all like this gymnastics sort of people. They were bringing that beat music in because of that. And then they developed it into like house and techno and stuff like that. So it wasn't really a type of music that was made as rave as such. It was made for gymnastics and people that are bodybuilding and doing things to get them in the motion and routine, and putting that beat behind it like it would help them. So that's how it originated. It didn't actually originate in the form as, oh, I'm going to make a techno track, or I'm going to try and do that. It came from that, and that's how it developed, and that sort of was done in the 80s, mid 80s. You know, because they had the electronica and they had the technology to do it, you know, the electronic technology. But anyway, going back to the people that like my sort of music, I mean, actually, I'm not sure Peter did actually like it, to be fair, because there was another occasion where he said he didn't really like it at all. He sort of listened to it, but it's not his sort of stuff. I'm not really sure what he's into, besides country and western, but he does like ska music and country and western, which is not a sort of music I'm into. You might get the occasional rare track that comes out, but as a rule, as a music genre in general, I don't like it. So like I said, Jason and Kevin like the techno scene. They were aware, they knew what jungle was, all of them did. Jake didn't mind jungle. Jake seemed to like the jungle scene. He was the one that kept wetting himself at school. I won't give his surname because I don't want to insult him, and also I don't remember what his surname is. He was just a couple of years younger than me at the time, but he had like a problem where he kept wetting himself. But he was into he liked the jungle tracks as well. And there was a jungle track that he played by Baby D, I think it's I Need Your Lovin'. Everybody's Got to Learn Sometime, that was played at the school disco when people could choose some tracks to play back at that time, back in the 1990s. Then I chose a Baby D track actually called Let Me Be Your Fantasy to be played in the school disco, but not really into that sort of jungle. I prefer it a bit deeper. And Baby D's sort of stuff came out just a little bit before, not much, but slightly before the jungle I'm into came out, where you had the deep technological rare groove sound and stuff like, you know, I mean, I think you had like stuff like Intense Paradox, Dope Travelling Part 2, and Rev P 1994, you know, all these breakdown tracks that came out, or Pesce World of Music, they all came out after Baby D, Let Me Be Your Fantasy. Baby D, Let Me Be Your Fantasy, I think it came out in late 1992, or was released in 1993 properly, I can't remember, it's in that time period. It's definitely one of the earliest jungle tracks, but it's more of an old school rave before the development of jungle came in. But out of females, well, this is everywhere, not counting school, but you know, anywhere, wherever. Majority of the females, especially the sexual type or the blonde type or whatever, I don't actually recall there ever being a female that likes jungle music. But they have, on a Happy Hardcore track, did one of those specialised tracks where you've got like that creepy, dark, dreamy part that occurs halfway through the track. And these girls were in the playing field, and they were roughly a bit older than me and a bit younger than me, a mixture of the two, and they were sort of with the rough type people, with the playing the Happy Hardcore. I didn't really socialise that much with these people because a lot of them were rough, but there was times where you didn't have all the complete roughnecks with them. However, they were with dodgy people, and I was sort of being a bit cautious when I was there. Well, they were moving their hands downwards to say down, 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 as a breakdown part occurs in an underground Happy Hardcore track. Now, breakdown parts in Happy Hardcore tracks, mind, are nothing like they are in jungle tracks. But you did have the self-made tracks that weren't released, where producers would deliberately design it like that for themselves, just for a bit of fun, but they'd never get put on a press or promo, and they did do that, but it's very rare. So you had that, and you had Jungle John as well, who lived at Sydenham, who knew Gordon Dyke. My nan used to know the Dykes, and connected with that side of the family who were living in Sydenham. So she knew Gordon Dyke. You had Charlie, who died from drinking. You had this Marcus boy that got killed by this Michael, who was the father, who was a visitor to Gordon Dyke back in those days. He was into Elvis Presley, so he never liked this stuff. He knew what it was, he knows what jungle is and all the rest of it, because Jungle John used to visit there. And also you had Dopey David, who had connections not so much with Gordon Dyke, but to the Dando family, and they sort of know each other, to, you know, in that sort of foundation of people, because you had some people that lived at Bridgewater railway station. You had, I think what happened is someone passed away as the mother of Dopey David, and she had a lot of money, and David became rich. Dopey David was also one of Jason's friends that my cousin Jason Dando knew when he was living at Edward Street in Bridgewater many, many years ago. And then obviously on the other side you had Tim, who's another person that the Dandos knew, that lived down by the railway station, not far from the mother's house of the I think it's the mother of Dopey. I can't remember, it's a long time ago, it's not really irrelevant as such, but it's worth mentioning. There's something I was going to mention, I can't remember what it is now, but not to worry. Yeah, I was going to say that Tim was in a relationship with a lady. I'm not sure what the lady's name is, because I've forgotten, because it's a long time ago, but she had glasses, and she had like a kind of Chinese accent, and she said, "No, don't do that. Go on, don't be stupid, sort of that action." The battery went flat. So yeah, she had this sort of Chinese Well, she says, no, don't do that, take it out your mouth. You know, she'd have that sort of accent, but it's sort of Chinese sort of accent. Very similar to the DJ XTC and T-Zone Strictly Jungle tape. I think it's that tape, where it goes back, gonna massively dance tonight, wicked or what? Try and boodle. I'm not sure what she says, but she sort of has that sort of accent to her. Anyway, it is not really irrelevant, but I was going to mention something regarding the music scene, but I can't remember what I was going to say. But either way, it's not that important. While walking over that railway bridge, though, years ago when I had that grey tape player, there's someone I knew from Lavington. It wasn't a friend, it's someone who hated me, and he's a happy hardcore raver. But yeah, he heard me playing Subsequence, You're the One, on a Top Buzz tape, first track. But I took the tape back because it was slightly tangled, and it was replaced for Top Buzz Sound the Summer. And I never really found out, I never got that mix again. It was only until I got a download that I got that mix ever again. But as it stands today, I don't really have any jungle tracks. No records apart from Suspension of Disbelief, which I bought as a souvenir, or sentimental piece basically, because I don't have any records. I thought, well, I might as well buy that since they reissued it. Might not be the best quality because they're taking it from a record again, because they can't take it from the DAT because the DATs are gone. But it's nice just to have just a feel of a record of a track that one of your best tracks has been reissued basically. So I bought a couple of copies. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there on the music scene when it comes to people that like jungle, because there's not many people that like jungle right through my whole life. They like drum and bass. They like the proper jump up drum and bass, not the stuff I'm into. But drum and bass, it used to be known as drum and bass jungle. But we just say that most of the stuff that the people that like drum and bass, they've always liked the stuff that came out after 1997. Just to cut a long story short, they don't like the stuff with the aim and break. And then obviously most people were happy hardcore, who developed onto like the club scene. Some went into club scene, some stayed into happy hardcore, and they're buying bonkers discs every time they came out. And some of these people are getting quite nasty as well. They're getting nastier. Come the late 1990s, they'd go around in crowds, and you'd be too scared to walk into them, because they'd come out and fucking smash you in or knife you. And even though they're only young people, I mean, I would have been roughly the same age, or maybe a bit younger or a bit older than some of them, but they were going in crowds. They were with 10-year-olds, 9-year-olds, 8-year-old girls, and these 8-year-old girls were just as rough. And these 8-year-old girls were getting off with like people in their teens and 20s. I think the highest you would have got in these crowds would have been about 30. But then again, when you look at people like, I've forgotten his name, but he's someone at Lavington. He was in his 40s, and he was hanging around in crowds of teenagers back in that time. But it was seen as a norm back in that time. Obviously, you wouldn't catch me doing that, but that's what he was. He's about roughly my age now, or around about the same age, in fact. About my age. At that time, that's going back in the 90s, and he was hanging around having cider drinks with these crowds, rough people, and they're all getting off with each other, and they don't give a shit, even the people age 8, 9, 10, and yet they're the same enemies that give me shit and stop me getting anyone all my life. So it just says it all, doesn't it? But anyway, anyone I've known, I said this on a documentary, anyone I've known in my life, it's too late. It's going to have to be new people. Or, because like I say, can't get a prostitute. Prostitutes say, there's only Asian ones in the UK. You haven't got any white prostitutes. There's a small mind, they're all smartphone users. They're against people. The only possible way you're going to get sex is basically what she says. She says you're going to have to go with someone that you know in your family or relatives or friends you know. And I don't have any friends, literally zero. So it's literally impossible. I mean, there's one or two that said they're going to help me out and said that you're not going to get anyone, and when my girl grows up, you can go with her, we'll let you have her. But she only turned out to have long black hair, like a fattish type face. Turned out looking like Lisa Pike when she was about 15. And even she is in a relationship and a single mother as it stands today. And she's in her 20s, mid-20s or something like that. So what these enemies did in the past, because they were all getting off with each other at young ages. They were like, some single mothers were 12 years of age. It's not like it is today where they wait until they're 18. But, you can't help what people have done in the past. Anyway, To cut a long story short, let's just say that everything in the past is over. It's got to be find new people. That's the only way I can do it, and this is why I said, this is why, you know, I'm not going to get anyone. And this is why my life's getting worse and I'm getting nastier as I get older. I will mention something else. When it comes to these people that are into happy hardcore music, I'm not saying all of them, but a majority of those people, they're wearing these white New York baseball caps and wearing sort of snazzy, sort of gangstery type clothing back in these days when this sort of music was out. And obviously they carry knives and they take their ecstasy, but they weren't as many weed smokers back then. You had it, they were smoking weed, lots of them were doing it, but they seem to be, they prefer their pills. They always sort of prefer their pills. So they're doing both, but pills seem to sort of be their main topic or their main issue of what they're into. And sex with girls as well. Yeah, not a good thing to say, is it? But they were often talking, I mean, they're pretty much children themselves. I mean, they don't see you as an adult until you're 30 today, or 25. Back then, but, you know, they're having sex with all ages. I mean, let's take a look at Louise, I'm going to say the name because I'm not very happy with the way my life's been. Yeah, I don't care. Her name's Louise Nichols. She was 9 years of age, and she knew some of my enemies, who were fake friends, back at the time. A lot of them, most of them fallen out. Don't like me. But when she was 9, she was getting off with people in their teens, 20s, and even Alex Lannis. You know, so, but, you know, we are in, you know, there are certain people that claim to have bad lives back in that time. I didn't expose that sort of information, even though my life wasn't great. I just kept myself to myself and didn't really sort of speak much. But because these people have bad lives, and because of Scooter's music, I mean, let's look at Gareth. What was it? Gareth? Well, I can't guarantee it with that. I'm not going to say anything on that. He's older than me. He's about 50-ish now, 50, in early 50s. Even he's managed to have sex with this Louise. And she was only 9 when I was 23 or 22. So, yeah. I won't say much on that, because this is about music. I don't want to cause trouble, but I can tell you it's not good. Especially what I found out. There's actually people that they were friends with that are fallen out for this reason. Not many, because a lot of them stick together and stick up for each other. A bit like DJ Storm grassed up DJ Psy for having pictures of 15-year-olds on his computer, which is a DJ that makes happy hardcore music and hard techno. He's still loved, you know. Nobody gives a fuck about that, but they love him for his music and love all the rest of it. And they still like him today, even though he's a bit funny. So, you know, it's a bit like that, really. I know it's a bit of a topic that could make you crack up laughing, or, you know, or sounds a bit peculiar, but, you know, it's the way people are, you know. They got their own, they stick to their own. And these girls or whatever are going to stick up for these people. They love them, they're like gods to these people. They're the returned Jesus Christ children, helping these ravers, you know, giving them the girls or whatever. Which pisses me right off when it comes to me, because I've never had anyone in my whole life. Straight through, right from start to finish. And all they do is dig at you with this Wayne's World business, which is something that I've mentioned in the past on my Deep Depression Life Story packs. But you really need to go through that story to explain the situation of that time. However, there are things that I need to mention also, and it's popped out of my head what I was going to mention, which is not sexuality, but it was something important that I needed to mention. I can't remember what it is. Right, I've forgotten what it is that I was going to mention, but what I did want to say is this happy hardcore business. When it came to people that are into happy hardcore, I had happy hardcore tapes because I thought it was cool. I wanted to keep up with what kids were listening to back in that time, but I'd never liked it. And when I was buying the drum and bass packs, the tape packs, the very rare tape packs, because obviously money was very tight in that day, and my dad didn't really have much money, even though he's working and doing the hard work in mind. these hard-working lorry drivers didn't get the respect or the payments that they deserved back in those days like they do today. In actual fact, I don't know if they do get better pay today, but you know, it's one of the most difficult, you know, jobs. It's not just a case of sitting down on a lorry seat or anything like that. You've got lots of hazards to think about. You've got there's many different things to think about. It's not an easy job, and there's a lot of mind power work in it as well, and it can cause very tiredness and fatigue and all the rest of it. It's not an easy job. It's not like a teacher at school where they're sitting on their ass all day. A lorry driver has a lot more to think about, and a lot of more serious things that they need to deal with, and they need to be at places at the right time. And back in those days, you know, it was all harder, and you were working longer hours than what you do today. Today you only have to do certain hours a week. So, considering my dad was a lorry driver, the money, the wages was absolutely shit. But anyway, going back to happy hardcore music, it was about 2003 area where people started to leave the happy hardcore scene, but most of them didn't actually go into, they're sort of going into Scooter's music. So the people that were into happy hardcore were going to Scooter's club music. So they're listening to this crappy fucking stuff like, you had like the Logical song, which is basically a commercial track that everyone knows, and the Nostalgia track, or whatever it's pronounced as. And then he did a track called Weekend, and then he did a track called The Night, Maria, Jigger Jigger, and Cleopatra, which is basically just commercial music that you get on the Now CDs, and they have been on the Now CDs. I think every track I mentioned's been on a Now CD. So it's just basically commercial, very commercial music. Music that's going to be there forever, basically. But that's the sort of music they went into, these happy hardcore heads. So some were continuing to buy the bonkers, and a lot of them were trying to get the old school stuff at the same time. But a lot of the happy hardcore stuff, sort of people went into sort of techno to sort of change into the sort of the radical North Technology live event type of music, or North, or Westfest, or whatever. Just sort of they started to go into the sort of clubby type of happy hardcore scene, and they progressed into hardstyle and became hardstyle ravers from the happy hardcore scene. But as new people have been born that have never known what the happy hardcore scene is, most of the newer generation would have just gone into the hardstyle before progressing into the hard tech and hardstyle stuff. And hard tech's just basically a darker, more underground sounding version of the hardstyle stuff. However, when it comes to hard tech, a lot of that's just combined in together into this modern stuff of the club music you have today. But regardless of what it is, these people that were listening to happy hardcore were always having sex with children. The oldest person I've seen in a crowd of teenagers and girls back in the 1990s was 43, I think. And this was a bearded, well, not bearded as such, but I can't remember what his name is. But he's a cider drinker, and he's 43. And he was basically a kid, basically. He was in the crowd. I mean, it was not uncommon. It was not uncommon to have people literally in their 30s and 40s going around in crowds of teens smoking and drinking, taking ecstasy and listening to happy hardcore. It was the norm back in that time. And you also had people in their 50s, really roughneck type people that look like, how do I put it? If you were to think of these like really hard drug dealer type people, not the scum life looking, but the type of people, bit like if you were to look at, think of Merv, or you know, the two robbers in Home Alone. Think of them, but 20 years older than what their age is in that film. You'd have that type of people sort of communicating with the kids, you know. It's like it's the norm back in those days. I mean, Brian, Dave's milkman, who drove a gas van, and he'd sort of give me that jungle tape. People that look like him, they'd have communication with teenage girls and all the rest of it, and they'd all fancy each other. It's different in those days. It's all wrong, you know, it's all inappropriate sort of, but it was happy hardcore based. When it came to these crowds, these gangsters, always happy hardcore based, which was good news for me, because you've got to take into account I've never had sex all my life, and I never got into the crowds that easy because I didn't feel in a very happy position when I saw them, and it's very rare, and I'd only sort of speak for a few seconds, and I'd walk around playing mostly jungle tunes on my ghetto blaster in Willavington at that time. When it comes to the jungle scene, like I said, there's been under 10 people right through my whole life that I've known that like jungle music, and there's only one person that's female that I recall actually liking jungle, but is not actually into jungle as such, but she doesn't mind it, and that's Tara Bowerman. Take that one person away, and that's only because Jungle John told me this, so I don't know 100% sure how true that is. This is John Barker, he's from London. Like I said, he's lived in Gordon Dyke's place when Gordon Dyke was in a relationship with his mother, going back in the mid-90s or whatever, and later on in the 90s, sorry, not mid-90s, later on. I heard about Tara listening to that sort of music. Otherwise, take that away. When it comes to old school underground jungle, there's been under 10 people, or around about 10 people only, that I've known in my whole life that likes my sort of music. So that's not counting family. Obviously, when you're counting family, there might be a few others, but this is out of people that I don't know in the streets. So it just says it all, doesn't it? These that are into happy hardcore, the funny ones, and the ones that are into jungle, there's only 10 people that I've known that I've liked it in my whole life. So obviously there's long ones that like drum and bass, there's loads that like drum and bass, but it's the jump out drum and bass. But none of them like the old school stuff, none of them. So I'll leave it there. And I'm just happy that nobody likes my sort of music if they're that sort of way, you know. All these people, my enemies, they're sort of been that way. So it does please me a little bit that it hasn't affected me, because it wouldn't be very fair if it affected my music. However, there was one time that really irritated me, pissed me right off. They were playing Pesce Warning from the Pro TGP at Bridgewater Fair back in 2005 area, or was it before that? I can't remember. I was on a visit to Bridgewater Fair. I can't remember if I was living in Bridgewater or not at that time. And you had all the girls raving to a jungle track that I like, and with the rough type youths with the New York baseball cap on also. But that was only that occasion, and there was another jungle track that was played which I've never heard of before, but it was an aim and break jungle track, sounded underground, where a similar occurrence occurred again in the 2009 area. Otherwise I've not heard any jungle tracks at Bridgewater Fair. And also one other occurrence was at Bridgewater Carnival 2008. One of Elvis Presley's tracks, it says, you speak like an angel, you speak like an angel, you talk like... I can't remember the words because I don't know the track very well and I haven't listened to it for ages. But they mixed it with like an aim and break hard jungle, and with a bass line in it. And all the girls in their teens and the children and were dancing to it at the carnival when that was playing at Bridgewater Fair. And at the time that was playing, it would have been down what's the name of the road? Bath Road. I can't remember the name of the road. It's the I've forgotten the fucking name of it. It might be, no, would it? It's trying to think. I don't know names of roads, you see. It's on the route that goes towards where the old market used to be in Bridgewater. Years ago, and you had that camping type shop, or whatever it is. Mixed shop, I can't remember what shop it was now. Let's go back too far. You had a market, it's off the, so you go on the main road, you've got the main sort of roundabout in the town. So you've got Bristol Road. If you were to go to the next road along, which comes from the Wells and Glastonbury Road, it would be that road there, but I've forgotten the name of it. And that's where the carnival float occurred, where that track was playing, that jungle track. There's something else that I've remembered. It's not something I've really mentioned that much because it's not something I really think about. Going back to 2003, they had a commercial on television I think it's a Leaks Conservatory advert, and it had a picture of a girl aged about 5 waving a magic wand in that specific advert. I can't remember what the picture of the image of the girl looks like properly today from when I saw the advert, but back at the time when that advert was on, I do recall that girl looking identical to Callum Evans' first girlfriend, or a girlfriend that he's had if it's not his first. But believe it or not, I can't remember what the name is of this person. Believe it or not, all my enemies like Alex Lunnis and Lee and you name it, all the people that were living at North Peverton at that time, even they were shagging that specific lady. Obviously she is a little bit older than the girl on the Leaks advert. I don't know if she was legal age, because back then it was 16. But also in 2003 they upped the age, but they didn't. When it came to their own, they didn't moan about that. It's more a case of stopping me getting anyone at 17, pushing it up from 16 to 18, then going back to 18 to 16. In that time period, in a way where it's done to stop me getting this person called Susan. And Susan wasn't the most sexualist type, but she was a sexy type. You got to take into account, even back then, I wasn't that old myself. So, I was sort of in my early 20s. Yeah, so Callum Evans was basically Amy Weston's brother. But I don't know why he's got a different surname. Alex, I don't want to keep on going on about that person, but he was sort of friends. He's been associated with him for a long, long time. And obviously he's bowled his guts out and he's enjoyed the sex with these girls that were connected with the Amy Weston's family or whatever. But, that's that. Back in the day, these sorts of people would have been more sort of friends to some extent. But obviously through time, when they see me in the street, things have sort of changed, or I recognise them, and it's a different scenario today. So they were most of them were pretend people that didn't like me. So it doesn't matter if I mention all this information now. It doesn't matter if I expose it. And the fact that I haven't got long to live because there's so many people who jeopardise my life thinking I'm Savan, and the fact that I've been sexually abused as a child and not had sex in my whole life, and no one's going to help me or whatever. It doesn't matter if I expose all this information, so that's what I'm doing. It's all true. I'm not making it up. So, out of all the girls that were sexual back in the time period when my enemies were getting off, there are 2 specific that stood out in particular, but there's also a third, but I'll go to that in a minute. The 2 that were the sexiest, Amy Weston would have been top of the score for everybody, and she's been with everybody. But I wouldn't go with her today because obviously she's a lot more ugly today. She's old now, you see. I wouldn't touch her with a barge pole, I mean, even when she was in her teens, she was basically fucking everyone out there, and they were all getting good sex. And this is a problem. You've got a scooter, The Night, which basically says everything's alive. It's twisted against me, that track. It's done in a malevolent way. It's possibly in a way. Most of his fucking music's put against me. I mean, his Friends Will Be Friends track that was released in 1995. That pile of happy hardcore shit. All my enemies were listening to that as well, mind. But, Scooter used to be a happy hardcore producer. And then he's changed his stuff to the modern time stuff, which everyone got into. I've known people older than me listen to happy hardcore. I've known people as older than I am today. I've known people in their 50s listen to happy hardcore music back in the 90s and the 2000s, and I'm not making that up. But it's very far and very few between. In 1994 area, 1993, you had the illegal rave and jungle scene. Most people were a little bit more sort of serious, but a sort of different type of serious. It'd be more like a safe type of serious person that wouldn't start on me. I don't know how it would work. It's different to it's hard to explain. A bit like the robbers in Home Alone, but older than the robbers in Home Alone. It'd be that sort of appearance in face that would be listening to my sort of tracks. It would be a different facial appearance than the happy hardcore people in their 50s, where they're sort of the bearded type people you have today, sort of people that give me trouble today. It's difficult to explain. But they're rougher, they're nastier, more unstable, more nastier, more aggressive. You didn't have that characteristics in the face. It's more evil, sort of unsafe people. But so that's what it would have been like back in that time. Anyway, Amy was the top of the list of them all. I've mentioned this many times before. She looks like Gabby Borges, the American singer in America, but she was hotter looking than that. But they use the term hotter. What I mean by hotter, I'm only going by the modern term of what people use, or people were using by then, is to explain the smoother the skin, the softer the look, the sexier the look, the better the face, you know, the one that everyone fancies. It's basically, she was the top of the hot spot for that. And obviously everybody fancied her, and everyone got off with her. Even though she had a boyfriend at the petrol station at Old Taunton Road in Bridgewater, which people were mentioning back at that time. Like I said, I don't give a shit who I've mentioned all this now, because it's pointless, you know, I don't give a fuck. You know, people treat me like a piece of shit, stop me getting anyone, cut my wrists and left me for dead, and taking a piss out of me being sexually abused as a child in my next life, so I'm just exposing everything, fuck it. The only thing I won't expose is family, because there's no need to, because I've always liked family. But anyway, the next thing I want to mention is the second sexiest person would have been Shara Weston, which is Amy Weston's sister, who was again top of the list. And then you'd have Maria, who they stopped me getting because she went with a person that looks like the boy in Harry Potter film. Again, she was a bit younger than me, but because if you look at my age back at that time, there wasn't really that many years difference, so probably about 5 years difference in age. They turned her against me. Susan, she was 16 coming up 17. She wasn't as sexy as Maria, but they changed the age of consent of sex from 16 to 18, and then everybody started on me on the estate, and I didn't know nothing about it at that time. And then 1 year later they dropped it back down to 16 again after they turned Susan against me, and Susan ended up going with an enemy and becoming a single mother. And also her brother doesn't like me today because of this incident where the government changed the age of consent from 16 to 18 for that 1 year period. Because it only happened for 1 year, they dropped it back down after 1 year. So the time they did it was in the time period when I got to know when this Susan knew me. And this Susan was taller than me. There's not much difference between me and her age. I was a few years older, but take into account I would have been young as well at that time. So that was that. So after Maria, that's all, including all the people I known, sort of. So Amy Weston would have been the sexiest out of everybody, followed by Shara Weston. After Shara Weston, you'd be going down a little bit into the pace of that Maria. I can't remember what her second name is. Then after that, you'd be going down to that Polly in Willavington, who was speaking to me, but she won the lottery or came into big money, and she moved out the area and she went with some celebrity, not well-known celebrity, but a celebrity, because of the money that she came into suddenly, which means I couldn't go with her. So she would have been the next sexiest person down from that. Then after that it would have been possibly Alicia, but Alicia turned against me because Alicia was friends with Lee, and Lee's brother was a happy hardcore raver who was about several years older than me, and he was a DJ, and she turned against me, and she was like a neighbour that lived next to me. Once we passed Alicia, you probably the next person down would probably be Tara Bowerman, maybe. But Tara Bowerman went into negative attraction pretty quickly as soon as she reached her 20s, and she didn't really like me either, so that was sort of something that you had to consider there. Stephanie Jill, although she had some form of smoothish sort of skin that men fancy, I wouldn't classify her as being the sexiest person ever. You'd probably the start of the people that are more basic looking. You had this person, but again, enemies were making up stuff about me because other people have been in relationships with her, or they got me mistaken as somebody else, and obviously they turned me against her, and I didn't have anything to do with her. She, as it stands today, I have spoken to her normally, you know, when I've gone into a charity shop, but she doesn't actually remember me, she just doesn't actually say much. She's in a relationship now. She's just gone into negative attraction because she is nearly, I think she's around about 40. So yet. Yes, that's that. And then pretty much everybody else follows that. You know, so when it comes to sexuality. But all my enemies, when it comes to the Amy Weston type, it was frequent to see the Amy Weston type back in that time. I don't know why people were sort of having that sort of appearance, but all my enemies were getting with the Amy looking like, and there's always the happy hardcore ravers with the New York baseball caps and all the rest of it. So I'm just glad that it hasn't affected my music, because a lot of these people, all these people hate the jungle scene. All my enemies that have fancied these children over the years, they've always hated my music, which is a good sign. But there are some new problems where some tracks have affected, and where they reissue my music. The younger generation has got hold of it, and where it's sort of you had your music stabbed in your back after mentioning all this music all right through the, you know, the documentaries I've been doing. I don't know how long this video is going to be, maybe 2 hours or so when it's finally completed. But I moved on to the dark ambient scene, so it's come to an end. Even the jungle scene, there's just specific tracks that I like. There's 35 tracks that I like, and that is it. Those tracks are Four Horsemen, Drowning in Her. I'm not going to remember them all, I'm just going to say a few of them. Dope Travelling Part 2, Orca Intellect, Coda Space Tech, Ascendant Ultra Vibe, What Kind of World, Intense, The Genesis Project, Parallel World, Contagious, Lee and Guanj, Too Deep, Guanj and Spin Back, The Execution, The Alliance, First Impressions, Intense, Paradox, Lifting Spirits, Will I Dream, Green Buddha, The Chamber, Jungle Pirate, Drug Me, Flat 47, No Man's Land, Nut E1, Underwater Fireworks. That's the one where it's got the sample from Jean-Michel Jarre, not the flip side, because I don't have the flip side of that track anymore, which is called Liquid of Ray, which has a sample that's taken from Ultravox's Dreams, which was released in 1986, which is that dark part which is halfway through the track. So the other tracks are DJ Solo and Rosie, Inner Strength, Andy C, Roll On, Square Pusher, Tundra, Unit 1, Love Me. My own track I done on a music program which I titled Victorian Railway is also gone into my favourite area. I did that track back in 2019, and I found a specific sample and I revamped the track and decided to turn it into a really rare groove breakdown jungle track, which if you were to compare it to a 1994 track, you'll just think it's one of those really underground 94 tracks. I did it quite well when I made that track. It was quite difficult, it's the most difficult one I've done. It took several weeks to do, a couple of weeks. When I did do it, the quality wasn't fantastic, but I didn't do it to sell, I just did it for my own use, and I named it JL, Victorian Railway, original version. And that's the last actual track I've done, because I stopped making music or doing music on music programs because I just can't be bothered to do anything anymore. Appaloosa, Unplugged, Chaos and Julia Set Remix, Intense, Ecstatic, Bliss and Tumble, Free Me, and there was a few other jungle tracks that I chose as a selection of the tracks that haven't gone against me. Right, sorry about that. You also had Hyper on Experience, Disturbance, Tango Remix that I decided to keep. When it comes to the Alliance First Impressions, it's sped up slightly faster than what it should be. When it comes to Lee and Guanj Too Deep, because it was released on the CD slower slightly than the initial speed, and it's shortcut, because some CDs only allow you to have so much of the track. That was the case, and the same with the Execution. When it comes to the Alliance First Impressions, that's just a shortcut as well. There is another track that's called the Full SP, The Process, but it's also known as Sponge and Pascal, The Process. There might be a couple of other tracks, but there won't be many. I've mentioned most of them. So you're looking at Atrium Carceri, The Way Down, which is very similar to the breakdown part of a very underground jungle track, basically, but a little bit more deeper, a bit more sort of spacious, a bit more atmospheric. Very rare groove, very similar to when you listen to Dreamscape 8 and you've got Nookie Tea Tree mixing into the Alliance First Impressions. Sounds like it's going down the steps in that track into like the dungeons. So it gives that sort of appearance in the track. It's what's known as the downfall tracks, or the under tracks, or the way down tracks, you know, and that's why they titled it The Way Down. And I do like the tracks that do that, but they're often quite cultic, atmospheric and cultic. The other track is Eschatology, which is Atrium Carceri and Camerite House Rara from the Echo CD. Then you had Dahlia's Tear Crystalline, which I added to this like 40 compilation CD. I decided to add Ultravox Vienna because even though it's a good track, it's an 80s track, it is, and actually it's one of my better tracks of the 1980s, probably one of my best tracks of the 80s, so I added that one to the list as well. And then I did that sort of 40 compilation disc. There's one other track called Back to Basics, which is more of a sort of disco track, which has like a dark bit in it that goes duh, duh, duh. So if you like, Scooter's Maria track has a specific sample in it. It's similar to that, but it's more spacious, more darker, and not as commercial, crappy sounding as Scooter's rubbish. And it's only 3 minutes and so long, but it's I had to collect a collection of tracks together, you see, to put together, because a lot of these tracks went against me. Another track I had on there was a shortcut from Jungle Techno 5, Rough with a Smooth Twisted Girl. I think I mentioned Studio Pressure Resolution, Urban Wax or Liquid Wax Rolling Intelligence was another one I put on there, and Steve C and Monitor, The Razor's Edge. I probably mentioned every track that I got as my 40 compilation disc, but that 40 compilation disc obviously has some dark ambient and other tracks like I just mentioned in it, and that's everything else that's gone against me, or I've lost everything else, so, or the younger generation have got into the stuff that's gone against me. But you know, although it's only a few tracks. Oh, and Natural Mystic, Got to Have You, on Creative Wax Recordings from the Revolutionary Generation CD. I managed to rescue that one as well. Take out everything else, or the rest, everything's gone against me, the whole lot, so that's why I don't have many jungle tracks left, and because the youngsters getting into certain tracks that I used to like, and the fact that they've had sex of when they're teenagers or whatever, and it puts the music tracks against me, especially when you find out that the producers themselves, you know, are enjoying sex with teenagers back in the days, you know, sort of thing. It sort of goes against you, sort of. But you know, you've got these sort of tracks that's sort of built in a way where it's constructed around you, you know it's not going to turn against you, or even if the producer, sort of the track sort of, it gives the feeling like it's eliminated itself, or it hates the producer, or it's sort of fucking catalyst fucking stench. So, you know, it's built in a way where it's sort of, it's different, if you know what I mean. And incidentally, when it comes to the modern drum and bass, believe it or not, they make it sound like a fucking catalytic converter, you know, the jump up fucking rubbish. Not only am I being choked out by it, but they've actually made tracks giving them the impression of the car exhaust, of a modern car exhaust. Back in the day when my music was made, you didn't have a catalytic converter on a car, you didn't have that vinegary smell, or you didn't have the smell of rubbing two stainless steel knives against garden press. That sort of smell never occurred at all. You'd never get the stale stench of a catalytic converter in the after effect, or where it lays down in the morning where it's causing the smell to come in through the windows or whatever. You wouldn't have that back in that time. They brought in the catalytic converter in 1996 or 1997. I think it was 1997, the earliest of catalytic converters. So it was around the same time this jump up drum and bass came in. So, and that sort of, well, basically says it all. They didn't have it in 95, they didn't exist in 95. Because they were going on about it on the news back in that time, saying that people were going to take their cars back to the shop, they're going to moan about it. And this was in late 95, and that's before they even invented a catalytic converter to be put on cars to be sold. So you know, but yeah, it's very irritating. And I notice they've only done it in my lifetime to be around in my lifetime. And then as soon as my life ends, they tell me I'm a sick cunt, I'm supposed to fancy a granny and now the catalyst is gone. And it's electric. But the thing is, they're trying to tell me, they're twisting it to everybody else, because everybody else think that a catalytic converter smells like a child or a sexual woman. Well, for the last 10 plus years, they've been using this catalytic converter setup to tell me it's granny gas, and tell me the granny gas van and the catalytic converter setup occurs or whatever, and just digging like that. It's only in 2024 that they're reversing it to the way it is everyone else is thinking. They are bringing the electric cars in, but most of them are still motor driven, still have an engine and still need to put the catalytic converter on it. There's trains and aircraft use them as well, it's not just on cars, and it's very fucking irritating. Anyway, going back to these happy hardcore thugs that were listening to happy hardcore, I was mentioning that ecstasy was the main thing that they were doing in that time. Well, it wasn't actually. When it came to cocaine or heroin, it seemed that people were doing heroin. Heroin was big. Cocaine was here and there between whoever decided to do it. But the main thing, it was ecstasy. And there's a lot of glue sniffing as well. People were doing glue sniffing. I mentioned this the other day, that this was not something you hear of today. So you get like that PVA glue, the stuff that you use in schools. Well, I'm told it gets you high. I've never tried it. I mean, I get high on super glue if I'm trying to mend things that are broken off in the house or whatever, or china is broken off. But I'm surprised I don't use that. But you can also get high on paint stripper, which is what French polishers use. But what I will say is the top things that alcohol was, they were drinking alcohol, but it's different. It's different than it is today. It'd be very difficult to explain. Ecstasy and heroin were the two important ones, though most people were smoking weed anyway, but it wasn't, people did prefer the other two though, even though they were smoking weed, if you get what I'm saying. And they like the alcohol pops. So lager, that's not been nothing new, that's always been like that. Everyone's like their lager and whatever. And there's a few that like their spirits as well, drinking literally neat 37.5%, you know, vodka or gin or Sambuca or whatever it is, and just down in the bottle basically, to get absolutely fucking hammered on the hardest shit you can get. Then obviously you've had people that want the, what's it called? The absinthe that they mix with it as well. You had that going on as well, but I didn't really get in the crowds that much to know exactly what they were doing, but I do remember that pills in particular seemed to be the main thing of the 90s, mid-90s to about 2003. There are several popular names of these people in particular, so when they were listening to happy hardcore, there's always these two names in particular stood out of everybody else who were listening to these happy hardcore tunes back in the mid-90s and early 2000s. Nick and Neil. You had Walter as well, who looks like the, I think it's Bonkers, one of the Bonkers, there's a smiling face of, can't remember his Bonkers word, no I can't remember what number it is. Bonkers 14, 16, 13, I can't remember. There's one specific Bonkers, and he's doing a cheesy smile on the front of the cover. I think it's a greenish cover if I remember. Walter looks similar to that, but then again so does Neil. They all seem to have the same bloody face. Anyway, I'll leave it there. So just to end the video, I mean there's probably setups I'm going to mention towards the end of this video and so on before I get back, but ending the music section of this video, I just wanted to include that when it comes to the music stuff that I'm into, like the old school jungle or whatever, that 40 disc of mixed music that I did, which the battery went flat, but basically what I was trying to say is there's just over 30 tracks of favourite jungle tracks that I rescued basically as a favourite, which I kept on a specific disc or USB stick or hard drive. I kept as a specific album of 40 tracks, which includes a few other tracks like Dark Ambient and the Ultravox Vienna track that I'd already mentioned. The reason I did that video is because I knew that the music scene in the jungle scene, although it's been underground for many years, and because of this issue in recent times where it's been reissued, or the children of today are trying to get into it, they've reissued some of the better tracks, or turned against me or whatever, I decided to pick a selection of tracks that are not turned against me. But I didn't realise that the Andy C. Roll On was played at the Palace nightclub, and I forgot about it. However, when it comes to that sort of music, nobody really likes that sort of music anyway. When it came to the rave of the 1990s, they were playing all this at the illegal raves, so children would be in a raving at these sorts of tracks back in that day, but they don't really like what makes it more unique, and why I like this specific music in particular, and hasn't gone against me. So they have raved to it, but I don't like it, which is good. But that 40-track compilation I did was just like, because I've had to check the rest away because there's a lot of jungle tracks that have gone against me because it's on commercial stuff, and obviously there's even been girls that like that sort of music that have been on YouTube or the internet, and it's affected some of my tracks. But luckily, none of the tracks on the that 30-track selection or the whatever. And there is another track I forgot to mention that's on there, and that's called The Spirit Fathoms, which is on Fresh 86. I think I've actually mentioned every single track that's on there now, on the jungle tracks. Now I've remembered that track. So yeah, I mentioned them all. So anyway, my new music is dark classical and dark ambient, and the change of when the music scene started to go against me, or when I started to go out of jungle, goes back as far as 2016. But I will never leave specific tracks behind, and those specific tracks are the ones that I've mentioned, and the ones that are on that 40 disc compilation. I've lost all my other music for several reasons, anything from energy weapons that have been beaming, or radiation signals in the air, or if you want to call it that, whatever it is. I've messed up discs or USB sticks or hard drives when I was living at my old place, and then obviously I thought there's this sort of sexual suggestions in music that's gone against me. It was not really, but that's breaking being said down the bottom there. But anyway, the future of the what I was sort of mentioning, the jungle right through, these have played a part in my life. They've been good music, but the time's come where music has changed. But I would never get rid of the 14-track album that I've compiled, and that would definitely be an album that will remain with me for the rest of my time with those jungle tracks I mentioned. But my new music, or the music I'm into now, is dark classical and dark ambient, which is basically a very low down music, and very which is similar to, I'll give you a track that you can listen to. It's very similar to new age music, but slightly more moody, but in depth, in a trancey way rather than a lively way, if you get what I'm saying. Very deep, very strong sound, not. So basically, if I was to think of a commercial track to align the pattern of music up on that you might know, a similar sound to, just type in Dahlia's Tear, Crystalline, Cryo Chamber Records, that'll give you some idea of what I like. I'm not sure if I mentioned Square Pusher Tundra, but if I didn't, that was another one that was I included in that 40 track CD that I designed for the final disc of all the leftovers of that type of music. Right, straight away colliding on the road to try and hit me off. Blackgate and Tesco van collide, and grey car and black and blue car. Right, so black and blue car my way, penis up motorbike, black and blue. Black, black, blue, grey, black, white, black, blue, black, white. Shot her in or shot dead, said. Being shot dead and fucking knifed down tonight, said. Cycle centre van. Knife down tonight, said. Knife down double trouble tonight, said. Willie up motorbike up me. Bradford's spherical, black and blue, penis up motorbike. And there's another thing that was said. Knife down tonight, child rapist, double trouble coming. Right, 16 drain covers here over. 15 loud bikes to erections. about 20 drain covers hit over, 4 lots of rough people in my direction, 3 celticals in my direction. Right, I thought I'd do this little bit on the end for a bit of fun, and that's to describe the type of clothing people were wearing that were listening to happy hardcore music in 1995 to 2003 area, before they went into Scooter's music to people who were into happy hardcore. Well, as I said, it's quite often, usually in lighter colours, but you had like a New York baseball cap. There were a lot of grey ones, there were a lot of other colours as well. The occasional black or the occasional blue, or whatever. There was a lot of people, even the rough type, that were wearing like gangstery sort of clothing, buffy sort of looking, I don't know what you call it, type of clothing, you know, expensive type of clothing, not cheap, you know, sort of. So these people that are listening to happy hardcore must have had rich families or whatever, and that loud bike was just tied to an erection, obviously. So wait a minute. Yeah, so you didn't really have much in the way of fluff or feathers on the top part of the clothing that they were wearing. It's just like these gangstery t-shirts, long t-shirts, mostly in a white colour, because these happy hardcore people did like the colour white. They were biggish build. They always thought they were the leader of the gang, you know. They were in with it. Especially Water and Nell and Nick, who were the main happy hardcore names that I recall hearing of back in that time. In actual fact, there's a Neil Lovelace that I knew from Avalon School. He liked happy hardcore. He had the facial appearance of some of these people that were rougher that liked happy hardcore music. However, Neil Lovelace, he's just a decent type of person that I knew back at that time that was at that school. But there was a lot of people with his facial appearance, with his name, that were actually listening to happy hardcore, who were a lot rougher type than Neil, that specific Neil. I gave him my Fusion tape once, which is the Fusion Vibes, I think, to borrow, and he was meant to give it me back when he left school, but I saw him in the woodland going for a walk when I was on my own, doing a walk. I can't remember if it was a bus trip I did or something. I remember him, I didn't really speak as such, but I knew he had my tape, and he sort of said, I can't remember if I asked for the tape back, so I wouldn't really bother, to be fair, because I wasn't really into happy hardcore. It's just cool music I was listening to at that time. And he also played me, this Neil Lovelace played me, the Spiritual Aura, which DJ Rap did, or Engineers Without Fears, a happy hardcore version of it, and that's the first time I ever heard of it. And it sounded quite interesting, actually. I only heard a bit of it, but yeah, so Neil played that. But most Neils, if you take Neil Lovelace out of the picture, he was a decent person. When it came to these happy hardcore thugs that I knew back in my area, towards Bridgewater area, back in 1990 whatever, they were all nasty pieces of shit. So they had their clothing, their white clothing, often had like these baggy sort of white trousers, you know, but the modern type of trousers that the gangsters wear, the expensive type, and then they'd have these like nice posh white trainers or whatever, expensive trainers, high top of the range type, or they'd have a similar clothing like that. Now, like I said, these happy hardcore people in their teens, 20s, but like I said, the people that were listening to happy hardcore were up to the age of about 50. But I don't know how to put it like this, but people are stupid, so you're going to get people that age listening to it. And that's back in the 90s, not now. So these people are listening to it would probably be 80 years of age today. Some of those, if they're still around, that is. But believe it or not, you did have people as high up as that age that wasn't very popular. It wasn't frequent, not in the happy hardcore scene. When it came to the 1993 old school jungle rave stuff, you did have older people in their 40s and 50s listening to that sort of music back in the 90s. It was more common with that music than it was happy hardcore. Happy hardcore was centred between the ages of girls aged around about 8 or 9, or children aged around 8 or 9, to roughly about the age of 25, 30. Then you had some people a bit older, like Gareth, who is a neighbour that I used to know at North Beverton, who had a mum called Betty and a father called John, who's about a few years older than me, so about 5 to 8 years older than me, whatever. He's always been into happy hardcore, but he knows what jungle is. He does know what jungle is, but he's not keen on it as such. and he has a brother. I can't remember what his brother's name is. I don't think I've ever known. And he's sort of similar sort of taste. But anyway, so right, back to the clothing. Yeah, so back to the clothing. You did have hoodies. People were doing hoodies, but most of them preferred to wear the caps and have their hoods down when they had these hooded sort of tops. But there were times where they had their hoods up with caps, you know, and where they just had hoods or whatever, and different style of balaclava clothing or whatever. And most of these happy hardcore people that I've mentioned, they were going in groups. So they were sort of, they were having sex with children aged 8, 9 or whatever, you know, getting drunk, taking ecstasy, getting pilled up, doing their heroin or whatever. There's a different type of people in those days, and hanging around in groups of about 20 people in at a time, especially in the 2003 area or before then. No, I've never liked any of these people, and they've never liked me, and I've never got involved in it. I don't like their music either, but I find it interesting, and I get a buzz out of having my say of what I think about these people and their music, because happy hardcore is a load of shit. So this is why I'm doing this documentary now. So there's all my enemies. So they're always going on about me saying, oh, you're sick and all the rest of it. But they've forgotten the past of what they were doing in the past. Just rubbing it in, you know. Because some of these people were in their 20s, man, when they were fucking people. A bit like Jesus Christ with Mary Magdalene, basically. Mary Magdalene was 11 or 9 when Jesus had a sexual relationship with her, and Jesus was in his 20s. That's why they couldn't put a manuscript in the Holy Bible, because it wouldn't look good. But anyway, I've already discussed that. I'm not going to go into an argument with all that, because it's not exactly the most cheerful news, is it? So anyway, when it came to the girls, they were sort of red light clothing, so they like pink t-shirts. They make themselves look like they're pregnant. I didn't really say much notice because it's very rare that I tried to avoid these types of people when they were in my direction back at that time when these happy hardcore ravers were passing me. And they're sort of a bit like Gabby Borges in America, so Amy Weston or Shara Weston looking type people. They're sort of very sexual type with soft skin where men get a boner over them or fancy them, you know, what I said earlier on in this documentary. I'm trying to think what they wore. Some of them would have had like tops, but they would have like had that fluff or that hairy sort of white bum fluff they have across the top of where the neck is, part of the coats that they wear, whatever it is they wear, because that was sort of been sort of sheep wool. I don't know what you bloody name it is. And then obviously you had some of them that had like light clothing t-shirts, girls t-shirts on, and wearing sort of pyjama type trousers. So these happy hardcore groups, or these gangsters that were walking down in groups in that time, were basically a mixture of what I said, for clothing that is. When it came to people that were into jump up drum and bass, so we're talking after 1997 and not before that time, they were sort of casual wearing sort of maybe jeans, maybe a top. It was sort of not really as... I mean, some of these gangster type people were wearing that sort of clothing as well, but the ones that were into sort of the jump up drum and bass, we're not talking about the aim and break, we're talking about jump up, the modern stuff. It was sort of kind of gangstery to some extent, but they were slightly different layout, a bit like the hard style people dress today, I guess, in nightclubs, as it stands today, or what the bearded type clothing wear when they're walking to you in the street. Similar to that really, but not as rough as what they are, and they didn't really have the beards as such. Maybe. That's the best way I can describe it. When it came to the old school rave stuff, especially this sort of heavy stuff, 1993, these sort of 93 and 94 area, it was mostly a lot of black people that were listening to the jungle scene, rather than white people. I don't know why that is, because a lot of the underground tracks are produced by white people, but there were a lot of black people that were mostly into the jungle scene rather than white people. White people liked it, but females didn't like it at all. When it came to females, the younger age of females, it was very, very rare that females actually liked jungle music. I don't know why that is, but just it always appeared that way in Somerset. Like I said, apart from that one person I knew at Elmwood School, and this is only by word of mouth, that Jungle John said. So I can't guarantee 100% that's true, and that's Tara Bowerman. But even she didn't go mad on it. She liked it, but she didn't go mad on it. Me, as far as I'm out of people I've known in my whole life, there's never been a female that I've known in my whole life that's liked old school jungle music. Anyway, I've heard people play it in cars when I've been on holidays or visiting places with family, and the average person that listens to my type of music would have the same sort of jeans, blue jeans maybe, black top maybe, t-shirt, similar sort of, I wouldn't say gang, they'd have like a baseball cap, but it wouldn't be the New York type, it'd be sort of the more older type. Maybe they'd have the cap worn backwards rather than the right way up. But then again, so would the happy hardcore people, the rough people. But they were doing it with a New York baseball cap. Yeah, because nobody really liked jungle in my area, so I can't really sort of document jungle music as well as I can with other styles of music that I sing. 'Cause most people, literally 99.9% of people in Somerset have always been happy hardcore types of people before moving on to hardstyle and scooters type of music in the time period that happy hardcore started to fade out. And then obviously some of them went into hip hop in the early 2000s. But most of the people that went into hip hop in the 2000s were sort of under the age of 45 today. So people in their sort of 20s back in the early 2000s or late 90s would be the final sort of people that went into sort of hip hop. So they'd be about 45 today. Not many that are older than that would listen to it. There might be, but not out of people I've encountered. So a description of people like the old school jungle, you really got to be looking at people that you've seen walking about with people that have played jungle, which is very rare, very far and few between, right through wherever I've been in my whole life. But the very few that have, or that I've known, that like that sort of music, they usually wear blue jeans, shortish hair, maybe crew cuts, but it wasn't the modern sort of hair you have today, like the football, like short hair across the sides and back and a bit of hair on the top. It wasn't like that, or it wasn't like the Scotty Beatty boy fighter type haircut. You didn't have that. That sort of came in when the happy hardcore people were listening to the happy hardcore in 95, and then they changed the style and things got modern. They made things look more modern with the clothing and whatever, that you had that sort of design haircut. But when it came to 1993 and 94, you had a couple of people called Blake, you had a nicknamed, these were enemies. These enemies were born in 1979 and 1980. So they liked some of the old school jungle tracks, but even they got persuaded to go into the happy hardcore scene later on. And then they went into scooters music and hip hop music after that. One was called Blakey, but it's not the same Blakey that was at Willavington who had the nickname Blakey. You have Walter, which was another one. You had Nick and Nell, but they're the proper names of Walter, Nick and Nell. I don't really know many people with the actual name of what these happy hardcore people were doing. There's also another one, I knew Greg. So yeah, I knew him as well, but and he used to mix some music with Martin. Now, I haven't seen them two for years and years and years. Not really much for me to say on those two, to be fair. They're sort of but I do know that he's into like camping and all the rest of it, Ray Mears or whatever, which is really good, interesting stuff in fact. But I'm going to leave it there when it comes to that person. So let's move on to the club scene. So what happened was, as soon as people got out of that happy hardcore scene, people were sort of persuaded to go two ways. To go into the hard style, to continue listening to Bonkers, and then you had those that went into Radical North Technology, Westfest and other club techno-y sort of events from there onwards basically. So there was always happy, good, jolly, sexual music, ever since the happy hardcore time period. You used to have techno before happy hardcore came in. I mentioned earlier the techno scene's been going on for many years. The experimentation of techno goes back to 1981, believe it or not. They were experimenting in Ultravox's Vienna and a few other commercial tracks, as I mentioned earlier on. But when it came to jungle, that didn't develop until 1989, when Lenny D. Ice produced We Are IE, but it didn't actually get released until 1991. Now, I'm not quite sure if it was made in 89 or made in 1990, because some are saying it's 89, some are saying it's 90, but whatever it is, it's in that time period. And then 1991 was when it actually got issued and released, and it's known as the first ever jungle track to be released, which is the proper old school rave stuff of the early jungle. But before you had jungle, you had the rave of 92 on the Cookie Jar records, like The Shaman and Ebenezer Good and Prodigy Out of Space and Sesame Street or whatever, and all the crappy tunes of 1992, the rave tracks of 92. And then it went into Let Me Be Your Fantasy by Baby D with the rave tracks of that, and then you had the piano tracks of 92 and 93. Then come mid-93, before you had that, you went into like Babylon Time Warp, which did some sort of darker rave tracks of early 93, that is, and then spinny tunes of 93, early 93, with girly voices in the older school tracks or whatever, and especially in 92 and early 93. Bang in the middle of 93, all that changed, and then the jungle scene developed. They started making the sound sound stronger, darker, deeper, and they took that girly voice out of the old school tracks that they were using, took away that spinny sound effect, and started using moody sound effects and darker sounding technology in jungle tracks. And then obviously Babylon Time Warp then became intense, and they produced tracks like The Quickening, Paradox, Time Space Continuum, and then you had a load of breakdown tracks, and they started putting cult samples and whatever, and started producing dark, dreamy jungle tracks. And then obviously in mid-1994 into reggae, ragamuffin sort of tunes, then became more commercial, more cheesy. Then they tried to change the breakbeat into a more jump-up style. And then come the 2nd of May 1997, that was the beginning of jump-up and the catalytic converter years. And the reason I call it the catalytic converter years is because when I was walking back, I was being choked by a catalytic converter right as I was mentioning the time period that jungle ended and the start of modern jump-up drum and bass began. And also, when it comes to modern drum and bass music, there is actually a track or an artist that's called Catalytic Converter when it comes to the jump-up drum and bass, which is a load of crap. It's actually the reverse to jungle. Drum and bass is the reverse to jungle. Drum and bass is more punchy, has more of a kick, and has more of a punch-out layout to it. It has more of a heavy metal sampled bass. Has a distorted bass line rather than a ultra bass line. It's a lot different than jungle. With jungle, it's dreamy, it's snary, it's deeper, and it's more. The girls don't like jungle music. Even back in the 1990s, they were saying it's Dossers music, or it sounds common as muck. Because the problem is with jungle, even though I prefer that sort of stuff, the younger generation see it as being homeless music, or jobless music, or Dossers music, or common music that's got no, they say it's got no standards to it, or doesn't have any posh, it doesn't have any thing to it. They just say it's a load of crap. That's what the girls said in the 1990s. But they're the ones that are into the happy hardcore stuff, so. And obviously happy hardcore sounds different to jungle, so they're going to say that. I mean, it doesn't bother me what they say. People can have their own opinions, it just doesn't bother me. But yeah, they were criticising jungle. A lot of people are doing it, the males are doing it as well, but they're like saying it's simplified fucking mangled sounds that comes out like a fucking piece of shit out of a fucking garbage can, and stuff like that. Or saying it's Dossers music, it's common as fuck music. It sounds a load of shit, it's not got any standards to it, it doesn't have any posh sounds or anything like that. But, that's their own opinion. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion, it doesn't bother me. But that's what they were saying. and I'm only mentioning this to document the documentary, to let you know what people were saying about this sort of music and happy hardcore. And that's what this documentary is about. Just want to mention the two genres of music and how people have related to it over the years. So, thank you for watching this documentary. Have a good day. There is one thing I forgot to mention. There's a promoter called David Prattley who organised the events of Helter Skelter back in the days when Helter Skelter was playing rave music and happy hardcore, whatever. But one of the people in one of the documentaries, which is a videotape films that they were selling years ago, so they made several videos over the years, were talking to people and saying that the reason nobody likes jungle is because it's not sexual. They say with happy hardcore, it's a very sexual music. It gets your body moving and doing all this. They say, but with jungle, it's just a load of shit. It's just a load of nonsense. It's just common as fuck music that nobody likes. And then they sort of say it's black music, so they were criticising the black community as well, which is not the right thing to do, but there was a lot of people that were black that like jungle music. So yes, it's true, but there's also white people that like it as well, so I'm not racist. It doesn't matter who listens to it, anyone can listen to it. But jungle's had a lot of bad things. And then we had another one where this is a YouTube link. This is called Radical North Technology. They're playing some sexual music, which is like club music that's dark, but sort of a bit like Scooter. And then there's another woman, or a couple of women in their teens, saying how they love Radical Technology North. And basically saying that when it comes to the old school stuff, or jungle, they say it's all crap, they say it's all bollocks, they say, where's the sexuality in jungle, and saying stuff like that. And saying with this, it gets your body moving, it makes you pump up, it makes you enjoy the sex with the boyfriend, it turns the men on, and all the rest of it. So, yeah, it's had some bad people criticise jungle quite a lot. And there's also, I noticed a lot of the critics that criticise jungle seems to be in the southwest of England as well. Even when you look at these documentaries, or these things that you get on the internet, or these videotapes that were released in the late 1990s as limited edition tape pack things. But anyway, I'm going to leave it there. It'd be interesting to hear what people's views are, if they want to leave any comments. Here's me talking about ending the recording. I forgot to mention the overall age of what people would have been on average between 2003 and 1995 as your average age gap. But the average age, or the average person that would have been listening to happy hardcore, take into account there are a lot of children aged 8 or 9 listening to this stuff as well, and sort of they're bringing like their tapes into there's YouTube videos as well as actually knowing this, in where people were having rave tapes when they were children. It's like happy hardcore, like DJ Clarkey or Vinyl Crew or DJ Psy or whatever, because you know, you've not just sort of experienced or seen it yourself, but you just know you've heard it in other places, or seen it on television, or seen it where they just given where a boy only aged about 8 or 9 has got a happy hardcore rave tape. That wasn't uncommon back in those days. If I was to say the average age of what people would have been when they were listening to happy hardcore as a rough age area, you know, the average age of where a majority of people would be at the age they would be listening to it would be between the age of 15 and about 25. When it comes to drum and bass, the jump up stuff, the modern stuff, I'd probably say it's around the age of roughly about maybe 17ish to about 35. But because people have grown older since that time, you've probably got people in their 40s, maybe even touching 50, that listen to it today. Back in the 1990s, when it came to the early old school jungle, we're not talking about the stuff from 1995 onwards, we're talking about the really old stuff, the dark stuff, the deep stuff. Back in its day, the average age of people would have been that were listening to that would have been in their 40s, believe it or not. That would have been the average age. So today, probably as high as 60 or older, some of them, if they still listen to that. but a lot of it's the black community. There were younger people that were listening to it than 40, but it would have been mostly the young black community who would have been in their 20s rather than the white community when it came to that specific genre of music of jungle. But you did have a lot of people in their 50s playing it as well. It's one of those sort of categories which varies. Depends on the type as well, because there's different types of jungle. Even in the old type of stuff, you had the underground stuff, you had the reggae stuff, you had the meditation stuff, and you had the really ravey stuff like Busy Bee. But your average age of the underground stuff the people were listening to it in the 90s would have been about the age of 40. Today, I don't think you can get anybody listening to it at all, but when it comes to house or stuff like that, your average age would be usually between about the age of, back at the time, they didn't really sort of have any starting age. People just got into it, they liked it straight away. But as a rule, I'd say 20 to 35, maybe a bit under 35 would be your average age for the house people. But as time's grown and passed, probably 35, 45, 55 even today. So that'd be your average. And this time I really am going to leave it there. So if you've got any comments you want to leave it in the box below. Thanks for listening.